All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to call our regular board meeting to order, May the 28th, 7 p.m. If everyone would please stand, we have Maverick from Underwood that is going to lead us in our pledge. Let's give him a hand. Absolutely. Thank you, buddy. All right, I would like to take this time and welcome all of our guests that are present and also that are viewing online. Thank you for attending our meeting. At this time, if I can have an adoption of the agenda.
I move to amend the agenda to allow our public speakers prior to our agenda items for decision.
Do I have a second?
To speak, right? To speak prior to the items for decision, right? Yeah. Second.
Okay, so all of our speakers that are going to be speaking to items that are on our agenda, they will be able to speak prior to those items for decision. The rest of our speakers will speak at the normal time that's listed on the agenda. We have a motion, we have a second. Roll call, please.
Board Member Miller,
Aye.
Board Member Murdoch,
Aye.
Vice President Foley,
Aye.
Board Member Garrett,
Aye.
Board Member Johnson,
Aye.
President Sparks.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. At this time, our next item is going to be Superintendent's Report.
Welcome, everybody. I love seeing the packed house. So got a lot of things here I want to visit with you about. First off, good news. We'll be celebrating him here in a little bit, but we have Charlie Dykes, who's a state champion wrestler, and I'll let President Sparks talk about Charlie, but thank you to Jaden Cox, two-time world champion. Spent 30 minutes with Charlie earlier this week, so I just want to mention that. Also, the League Summit North Bronco Bots were finalists at the Central Missouri Regional Competition and won the Innovation in Control Award. Lee Summit High School Team Driven won the Greene County Regional Competition in Tulsa, Oklahoma, qualifying them for the first championships in Houston. The team also won the Regional Engineering Inspiration Award while at the competition. Team Titanium Robotics competed in the Heartland region and were regional finalists. The team also qualified for the World Championships in Houston with a wild card. Wes Ethan Wood earned the Dean's List Finalist Award, which is an individual student award and a high honor for outstanding contributions to our team and to FRC Robotics, and he will compete for the Dean's List Award at the World Championships. And Wes also earned the Autonomous Award at their event, so congratulations to them. I also want to say we had an event last night. I want to thank our Education Foundation and all their volunteers that put on the well-being event. We had at Lee's Summit High School, had a lot of vendors there, and it was a fantastic event. Want to also congratulate Educating Rising Competition. We had several folks that are going to be competing in Washington, D.C. this June. There's our students and our Teacher Educator Academy. So good luck to them. So Carly, Naomi, Haley, Tyler, Lexi, Jaden, Emma, and Audrey, they will all be competing. And you can see what they're going to be competing in the superintendent's report online. Next month, we'll bring in lots of groups of kids, and I just want to mention them right now because we're putting them on social media. We have 5 seniors that qualified for Missouri School Scholars 100. So congratulations to those 5. So you can see their names. We'll have them come next month. Missouri Scholars Academy, for those of you who have ever been to MSA, Boomba, there's going to be 5 of them. And just to let you know, MSAs between your sophomore and junior year is for the 330 brightest rising juniors in the state, and they have it at MU for 3 weeks in June. So congratulations to those 5. Again, we'll have them come next month, which is only 2 weeks away. The Missouri Fine Arts Academy, that's either between your sophomore and junior year or between your junior and senior year, and that's at Missouri State. And we had 6 of our students qualify for Missouri Fine Arts Academy, so congratulations to them. National Merit Finalists, we have 2, and you can see this on our social media. And again, we'll try to get these students here next week, or next month, which is only 2 weeks away. So congratulations to Alex and Thomas. Well, congratulations to Lee Summit North High School, which was named one of 9 Department of Elementary and Secondary Education 2023-24 exemplary school libraries. So 6 of those 9s were high school, so One of the 6 best libraries in the entire state is deemed by the state as Lee Summit North High School Library, so kudos to them. Congratulations to the Lee Summit West Air Force Junior ROTC cadets who excelled recently at competitions. At Carl Junction High School Athletic Challenge, the cadets secured first place in the co-ed division and the male division, and the entire group was named overall champion, so congratulations to them. Congratulations to our very own Y Club Lee Summit site leader, Lorenzo Harrison, who was named a 2024 Next Generation of After-School Leaders. So congratulations, Lorenzo. There's a lot going on here. For a second year, Bernard Campbell Middle School art teacher, Katie Messick, will have her heart featured in the Parade of Hearts. So congratulations to Katie. And all the hearts will be on display on April 12th at the American Royal, and then they'll be dispersed throughout the metro. So congratulations to her, 2 years in a row. Thank you to everyone who was able to come out Sunday to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Miller Park building at Miller and 6th. It was fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Sparks, President Sparks, for your speech. Thank you to our multiple legislators who showed up and the nice honor that the House made to acknowledge the fact that Miller Park has been there for 100 years. It's been an elementary school, it's been a middle school, it's been a high school, it's been central office, it's where ADC started off in our community, and it currently serves some amazing students. So thank you to everybody who came out for that. Today, we served out 14 of our 15 Excellence in Teaching Awards. So thank you to our chamber. Our Lee Summit Chamber has over 1,000 members in it, and they partner up with us, and they review over 200 applications from teachers of nominations, and they pick 15 winners, and we'll have an event April 17th, this time at Lee Summit High School, to celebrate those individuals at 5 o'clock. So we've given out 14 of the 15. You'll see a list of all those come out probably over spring break and a little bit up to April 17th. We don't put it out just yet because we got one more to catch and surprise. And then tomorrow we'll surprise our 6 support staff finalists of the year. Couple of announcements I want to make sure I hit is that April 2nd, next Tuesday, you might know this, there's a board election. So please vote. Every election, please vote. And if you are going to be out of town in spring break, you can go up to Independence and vote ahead of time. Once you're within 1 week of the election, you don't have to have a reason why. You just go up there and they'll let you vote right there. So please, if you're going to be out of town, consider going up to Independence and voting. Lee Summit R7 Pre-K is expanding. This Board of Education approved that last month. We're going to serve over 200 kids who will be 1 year shy of kindergarten, so 4 years and up by a certain date. And applications are out there. We already have a ton of applicants, but we're still trying to get some more. So the team here is going to be going around and trying to make sure we get as much interest, especially within our students who are going to be in the rooms that are you qualify for free or reduced lunch. We already have over the amount we need for tuition rooms, but we still have some space in the rooms that are going to be no tuition based. So if you want to learn more, please check out our website at lsr7.org/pre-K. Thank you to our student reps. You got some of them up here, but we have applications out for next year already. So if you want to apply, if you're a student out there and you're going to be a junior or senior next year, you can go to our website and apply by April 15th. Summer school, we call it SLI here, is enrollment will open on April 10th at noon and close at 4 p.m. on April 24th. You want to see the catalog, you can find that this week at lsr7.org/SLI. And I'm going to kind of switch gears a little bit. On Monday, we had an incident at Lee Summit North, which is an amazing high school, absolutely amazing high school. We were there today celebrating, right? We had an incident where staff and LSPD were there and did their jobs, and I can't thank them enough for what they did. But in a short 20-second period, we had 3 individuals, 2 cops, and 1 of our staff members get hurt and have to go to the hospital. So thank you for what you do every day, staff. Thank you, police department, for what you do every day. It's unacceptable what happened, but also they did their jobs and kept everybody else safe. So I cannot tell you how proud I am of Lee Summit North every day, and I'm proud of how they handled that event. And I will follow our policies and procedures. We'll protect information from kids, about kids, because that's what we're supposed to do and it's what we should do. We'll continue to cooperate with our police department, but I can't thank the police department that was there and the police department that came afterwards and helped out with that event. And if everyone else could do me a favor and keep those 2 police officers and that 1 staff member in your thoughts as they heal, that'd be much appreciated. Mr. President, that concludes my superintendent's report.
All right, thank you very much. At this time, if Charlie Dykes would come at this time. All right, and Vice President Foley is going to share some information about Charlie.
All right, so Charlie became the first wrestling state champion in Lee Summit North history this year. Charlie started wrestling in 7th grade at Bernard Campbell Middle School. His freshman year, he started the season on JV and finished with a 15-15 varsity record and was district champion at 113 pounds weight class. Charlie then dedicated himself to the sport of wrestling, improving his sophomore year to 45-6 and finishing 4th at the state wrestling tournament. His junior year, Charlie finished the season 48-3 and 2nd in the state wrestling tournament. This year, Charlie competed in arguably the toughest weight group, 126 pounds, in the state of Missouri, beating the Class 1 and Class 2 state champions and a Kansas Class 5 state champion and several multiple-time state place winners. He finished the season with an undefeated 41-0 record. So Charlie became only the third LSR7 wrestler to win 4 district titles in his wrestling career. Charlie finishes his wrestling career as one of the most decorated wrestlers in LSR7 history. Charlie won the Conference Wrestler of the Year and the Class 4 District 4 Wrestler of the Year this season. He just recently made a verbal commitment to University of Central Missouri to continue his wrestling and academic career. He is currently looking at majoring in either education or business at UCM.
Come on, let's give it up for this champion. Hey, Charlie, I'm sorry. I got so excited.
Congratulations.
All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next item, 3.02, which is our school spotlight. We have Underwood Elementary.
All right, thank you so much for having us here this evening. And I would like to add before we get started, Charlie was a product of Underwood Elementary. So here we go. Thank you so much for having us here this evening. It truly is an honor anytime we can be here to recognize the hard work of our awesome students. I would say angels in this case because they're going to be showcasing a lot of the service projects that they did this year out in our community. And then also an opportunity to recognize one of our volunteers. We have many volunteers, but we do have a volunteer of the year, and we're going to start with that. So if I could please have Lindsay Gordon, please come up to the front, please. And she's so excited to stand in front of everyone. So, Lindsay Gordon has been part of our school community for a number of years. Her journey started when she served on the Staff Appreciation Committee and then as Vice President of PTA. A few months later, she was promoted to the President of PTA and has been in this role for a number of years. She does an excellent job planning all kinds of fun events for our students and our staff, gym parties, holiday parties, staff recognitions, and of course, staff appreciation each year. She has a good team that works hard each and every day, and Lindsay really provides a lot of stewardship in that regard. Talking with her at one point, someone asked, well, how does she know so much? Well, I'll tell you how. She's in the office all the time. She emails all the time. She calls all the time. She is truly a dedicated parent, and we're very lucky to have her. Lindsay is passionate and genuinely cares about bridging the gap between our parents, our community, and our district. She has an amazing family. Emma, Ryan, and Kate, I believe, are here. They are students at Underwood, and her husband, Steve, who also provides a lot of time. And although Steve's name is not on this, I'm sure we can use a label maker and put it on there as well. She is going, this is her last year serving as our PTA president. She will be greatly missed, but she did say that she will always be available to volunteer. So having said that, Lindsay, as a small token of our appreciation, we would like to present to you a Volunteer of the Year plaque. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Stacy Bryant and Kristen Whipple. They sponsor our student council, and we have a few of our student council reps here. And I just want to say that I'm really excited about this because our students are amazing, and they are led by these two amazing sponsors here with Stacy and Kristen. I'm not going to forget Kristen this time. Not only do they teach them to work hard in the school, in the classrooms, and display outstanding character, they also instill in them the importance of giving to our community and working out in our community. So with that, I'll hand it over to these sponsors.
I'll make this brief. My name is Stacy Bryant. This is my co-sponsor, Kristen Whipple, and we are thrilled that you're having us here tonight. We are very, very proud of these students. They are composed of 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students who have been nominated by their peers. And anytime we ask for anything, they always step up to the plate, are very responsible. We do ask a lot of them, and they always come through every single time. So I'm going to let them explain a little bit about what they do this year. So I'll turn it over to Maverick.
Good evening. My name is Maverick.
And my name is Emma, and we are representing Underwood Elementary Student Council.
We are so excited to be here and to share with you the wonderful things our group has done in the last year.
Each quarter, our student council helps with our spirit assemblies. Our jobs include leading the pledge, presenting the flags, handing out awards, and the most fun job, dressing as our school mascot.
This December, our student council sold candy canes to raise money for the residents at Addington Place of Lee Summit. We raised over $800, and we were able to buy many gifts and necessities for the residents with the money we raised.
On December 20th, we visited the Addington Place of Lee Summit. Our student council spent time singing Christmas carols, passing out cookies, and handing out gifts to the residents. We loved spending time with the wonderful residents and spreading holiday cheer.
At the beginning of February, our student council hosted a food drive called the Super Bowl of Caring. Students and staff donated non-perishable food items the week of the Super Bowl. Our school donated over 1,600 items to the Lee Summit Social Services. Our student council was in charge of organizing and boxing up food items. In November, our student council members helped with our annual Veterans Assembly. Our school hosted over 50 veterans for a breakfast and special assembly. Student council members greeted veterans to our building, helped with the breakfast, and spoke at the assembly.
Last May, our student council visited Lee Summit Social Services. We were able to help them clean the warehouse, organize food items, put together care packages, clean up the outside, and make cards for people in our community. We love this service project.
And that's our presentation.
Thank you. Come on, let's give them another hand as they're exiting. All right, our next spotlight, school spotlight is going to be Summit Lakes Middle School.
Good evening, Mr. President, Dr. Buck, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to come spend some time with you this evening and showcase some of the exciting things happening at Summit Lakes. Tonight, we're going to talk to you a little bit about our peer mentoring program. A year ago, that was the focus of our presentation. We want to provide an update to you about that program. A real-world learning spotlight that we're excited to share with you this evening. Also highlighting an example of student engagement will be a focus tonight. And last but not least, we will recognize our wonderful volunteer of the month. So as mentioned, we want to start off first with a review of some of the work that's been done over the past year with our marvelous peer mentors. And Marcia Hasty, one of our assistant principals, is here to do that.
Hello. So last year, I was able to share about our new peer mentoring program, and this year I'm able to share with you that our 55 students have volunteered a total of 2,878 hours this year so far. Yes. They have done a wonderful job under the leadership of Michaela Thayer, who is actually at a track meet tonight, so she's not able to make it. The next opportunity for them to volunteer will be at Unite the Summit, which is April 20th. They will be going with other volunteers in the community, serving at Hope House and Eco Warriors and Lee Summit Social Services. So we are super excited about the work that they're doing and so very proud of them. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Beth Groom, and I am the middle school broadcasting teacher, which I believe is pretty much an extreme sport for teaching. In the best of times when we have cameras, even with adults, we get a little nervous, but when you give them to middle schoolers. So I had mentioned in class, hey, we have these really nice new Blackmagic cameras. We have cages that my boss provided for me, but there's one tiny piece that needs to go on this camera. And I mentioned, I wish I could 3D print one. Dylan, eyes wide open, says, I can help you with that. And so I would say I did really none of the work but download a file, and then he quickly went to work, and it was about, a week? Yeah, a week where he would print, he would leave his classes, his core teachers were all on board, and he kept printing them, and we kept printing them, and we were able to provide them 13 cameras for me, and then also give them to my, at Summit, or at Campbell and at Pleasant Lee. So it was a real-world experience because it wouldn't have happened without his gifted teacher. I believe last year you won a contest, and actually Jenna Nelson said that you were the reason why they actually got that 3D printer. So Tracy Dick is his new gifted teacher, and she is equally like, yes, he knows what he's doing. So I am learning from him. That's part of what real-world learning is that we learn from each other. Thank you.
Can Dylan tell us what he printed? Can Dylan tell us what's the piece that you printed? I see the picture. I'm just curious what it actually, can you tell us? Sorry, didn't mean to put you on. Well, I am putting you on the spot, so never mind. I guess I don't mind. You can just talk into that one, yeah, if that's fine.
It's a 3D printed part that connects the frame of the camera to the lens mount. So if someone were to drop the camera, it could protect the camera's lens from breaking off, which is a very expensive mistake to happen.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Good evening. One of the goals at Summit Lakes is we want students to be engaged, and we want them to have experiences outside the classroom. Tonight, I want to introduce Coach Carr, and we have a opportunity to share a success that's happened in the athletic arena, and he's going to introduce some of his students and kind of tell you what that is. Yep. Doing great, girl. Got a whole gaggle of you.
I don't think they were prepared for this. I'm Damon Carr, head girls cross country coach at Summit Lakes, and we had a unique opportunity starting last year to participate in what they're calling the Missouri Middle School State Championship. It's down in Wheatland, Missouri at the Lucas Oil Speedway. Board member Eslick actually came out and practiced with us last year when we went to state, and we had a pretty good showing. But this year, off the charts, and my girls' team finished first place in the state of Missouri. These young ladies competed against These young ladies competed against 205 runners, and these were the best of the best, and we took first place. We had 14 girls and 2 managers go down with us, and I put it out to the parents that we'd love to have them come, and we had almost everybody come here. We were really excited about it, and as you can see by the numbers, I know one of the board priorities was to get 6th graders involved, and if you look at those numbers, on the boys' side, it's pretty balanced between 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. But if you look at the girls' side, we were starting to struggle with numbers with 7th and 8th graders. And our 6th graders, we had 31 6th graders run cross country this year, and really helped anchor that team. We had 1 8th grader go with us down there, 3 7th graders, and then 10 6th graders bring home the state championship. So we're going to look to repeat that next year.
All right,
Can they introduce themselves just as they go past the microphone? Just
Yeah, we'd love for you guys to
if that's all right.
Why don't you guys say your name and your grade level?
Yeah.
Morgan Thacker, 8th grade. McKenna Haig, 8th grade.
Sylvie Warren, 7th grade.
Piper McNutt, 7th grade.
Lizzie Ellis, 6th grade.
Bryn Reed, 6th grade. Ellie Ashelman, 6th grade. Charlie Ashelman, 6th grade. Kinsley Babcock, 6th grade. Harper Thacker, 6th grade. Sophia Gilbert, 6th grade.
Cameron Gilbert, 6th grade.
At Summit Lakes, we are very proud and fortunate to have a number of great volunteers, as are all of our schools here in the Lee Summit community. Tonight, we're proud to recognize Jonna Kelzer as our Volunteer of the Month. Jonna, would you come up, please? Jonna has served as a member of the Summit Lakes PTA Board for 4 years, is active with the Lee Summit West Booster Club, supporting the wrestling program and the Kids Club. In addition, over the past 2 years, Jana has expanded the Summit Lakes Middle School concession stand efforts, working countless hours at our home sporting and activity events throughout the fall, winter, and spring seasons. The efforts she describes as work that comes full circle as the concessions help generate funding that aids in PTA's efforts to support our Summit Lakes students and staff. Thank you, Jana, for your contributions to our Summit Lakes community.
If you don't mind, we'd like to get the cross-country picture too. We're gonna do our-
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, guys. One more. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. You're done. Good job, ladies.
All right, now we're going to move to 3.04, which is our school board representatives. And we're going to hear from presentations from all 3 of our high schools and also Summer Ridge Academy. If we can, yes, let's just come to the podium. And just come per school. That'll be the best way to do it.
My name's Jalen Campbell, and I'm a junior at Lee Summit North. And so we conducted a survey, and we wanted just feedback from our students and our staff, and here are some things that we're doing amazing at. So the first thing is we offer a variety of extracurriculars, such as our community days, where once a month you join a little group, and you get to spend about 25 minutes getting to know people of different grades.
Just give me 1 second.
Yeah, okay. And we also do a large variety of clubs. Student teachers work together a lot to create clubs. I myself am a part of quite a few different clubs, and I know a few clubs that just started this year, which is very exciting. We also offer a variety of off-campus opportunities, such as STA, which is based around medicine, Hurden, which is based around more technical careers, and then also CAS. You learn about these activities at really start of your sophomore year, and we got a lot of great feedback about our teachers and staff and how helpful they are and how willing they are to work with other students.
Hello, my name is Lucas Gillette. I am from Lee Summit High School. Some things that we did well overall in our school, we have an amazing admin to student ratio for our relationships, and I feel like we build that a lot. Some recent events that are going to happen and have happened recently, we are going to be holding our prom on April 13th at the John Knox Pavilion. On May 2nd, we're going to be having our academic awards for our top five 100 scholars. And then recently, the Vipers of Doom took silver at our state Special Olympics. Then we see that our bowling team took first in their state area. On the debate team, Evie Latman is going to state for informative speaking in April. We are seeing currently, we have a Royals Spirit Week going on at our school for the opening day today. We saw recently the NHS induction for all new juniors incoming. And yesterday we saw that the High Life newspaper and the Reflector yearbook had a J Day at Mizzou for their awards. And we also saw many different personal achievements and colleges for next steps for students overall.
Hello, my name is Anaya Dandy. I'm a senior at SRA Summit Ridge Academy. And some things that are going well at our school is that we're getting a lot of students prepared to graduate. So I know there's like a lot of one-on-one with students and getting them in line for the graduation process. And then another good thing is I had a conversation with the principal today, and I feel like it went really well. I changed his perspective on a lot of things. So I think there's going to be great changes coming to SRA, especially dealing with like social media and phones. I think it's going to be good changes for the school. So yeah, that's all.
Hi, my name is Emmy Harmon, and I'm a junior at Lee Summit West. Some things that are going well currently, MMEA has happened recently, and many groups at our school has gotten ones throughout choir, band, and orchestra for large and small ensembles. Additionally, with the music department, Lee Summit West's Orlando music trip is coming up over spring break, where we will go down to Orlando, and all three aspects of the music department will perform. Our Scarborough team is having a great season. For debate, 3 people are currently going to the national tournament in Des Moines, and 2 for multiple events. Additionally, IB and AP testing is revving up, and at Lee Summit West, we have approximately 40 to 50 diploma and career candidates combined through the junior and senior grades, and the program is expected to grow next year. Additionally, the National Honor Society induction will be coming up in April. Thank you.
All right, if we can give all of our reps a hand. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move to our next item, which is 4.01, our Finance Committee report. Is there any information that we want to share outside of the video?
I don't have anything additional to share, just if there's any questions.
All right, are there any questions from board members? Okay, let's go ahead and move to 4.02, which is going to be our board reports and meetings attended. Let's start with Dr. Johnson.
Thank you for that curveball you just thrown, because normally Heather goes first. So my activities for since the previous board meeting, I went to Mason Elementary. No one told me I needed a passport to get there. It's very far away from us. But I appreciate Beth Ratty hosting me. We had a great conversation, and I'll be honest, normally we go with more than one board member, but going by myself was really good. It made the intimate setting. We can have some real conversations, and I didn't feel like I was on stage. So it was really good. Their school is beautiful. So for those of you who passed that bond way back when, it's a beautiful school. It's really nice out there. I also attended a struggling readings meeting just this past week at Library on Colburn, which was very interesting. I learned quite a few things. I know we're going to be getting some new staff at LSR7 to help with some reading interventions, and so I'm pretty excited about that. I also attended, sorry, I wrote these down. I attended the insurance committee meeting, so we will be evaluating the medical insurance this year. So that's what we're going to be talking about next. And I also attended the BEST committee in LSR7, which is Team Lee Summit. So very good committee meeting. Again, I just always want to highlight people from all different backgrounds, all different employer groups can come together and come to a consensus to do overall great things for everyone in LSR7 in terms of employee groups. So thank you to Dr. Carlson and that group for all that they do.
All right, thank you. Board Member Garrett.
Thank you. I did attend the Taste of Lee Summit, which was a fun evening, socializing, and of course, I love the auctions. And then I did attend the robotics the R7 Alliance Open House for Lee Summit North, Lee Summit West, and Lee Summit High School. It was interesting because I think last year, about this time when they had their open houses, they were all at one, and it was Lee Summit High School. And so it was great to see the new workplaces that they are working out of now. So it was just good to kind of catch up on what they're doing, and then right before they headed out to competition. And then I did attend the Miller Park 100th anniversary, I'm not sure how you say that. And that was really interesting. I had never been there before. I think I got routed to Miller Park, which is not Miller Park Center. So anyway, I did enjoy the presentation on the whole history of it, and the renovations and how they're making it easier for all students. And I did also attend the Teacher of the Year committee meeting, so that'll be coming up here pretty soon, but surprises right now. Parents of Struggling Readers, that was the other night, and I enjoyed their, it was different than the meetings that had previously been held, and where they had different stations and where you could kind of interact and pick up different pamphlets of information. And I think that was it. Yes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Board Member Murdoch.
Just a few things from me. March 4th, I was also on the insurance committee meeting. I have to be perfectly honest, that's a sad committee for me to have to leave. That's been a lot of years in a row on that one. So appreciate all the work that that committee does, and whoever takes that role. It's a big haul for all of the staff to make those decisions. March 13th was the pancake breakfast at Summit Point. That was totally awesome. Thanks, Chris Cakes, for being out there in Summit Point for doing those. They left us all of these notes at Summit Point, which was really, really cool when we showed up. And they actually did it over the course of 2 days, which is even more amazing for the volunteers that they had to help do that, put that pancake breakfast on. So appreciate all of them there at Summit Point and the students for making those. They came from different grade levels and stuff like that. And some of them were addressed personally, some of them were to the entire board. So feel free to come over and take a look. Those were pretty awesome. Went to band and orchestra concerts at contests at Liberty North. Ended up over at the PLMS Scholar Bowl, which the PLMS ended up being city champs, which is pretty awesome. Selfishly speaking, I have a kid on that team, so I had to bring that up. And then also attended the heartbreaking Lee Summit West district loss to Rockhurst, which, whew, that was a tough one. That's it.
All right, Board Member Miller.
I attended the Lee Summit North annual step show, which if you haven't been, it's fantastic. Taste of Lee Summit, put on by the Ed Foundation. Robotics open houses for all 3 schools. I was invited by a couple of LSR7 students to participate in the, or be on their I Can Relate podcast, so that was interesting because I had never been on a podcast before. It was so fun. Also invited to speak at Lee Summit West, their NSBE club, National Council, Nutrition Council. So we have a nutrition council here in the district, and it's super cool. So I don't know if everybody knows this, but the Nutrition Council, they are made up of students from 17 of the 18 elementary schools, and they come together once a month, and they get to taste test foods that are possibilities to be put on the menu. So I think that's phenomenal that they do that, and again, another opportunity to hear student voice and what they're wanting and what they're liking, so that's pretty fun. Also, the pancake breakfast at Summit Point was amazing. The LSTA PLMS chapter of, the PLMS chapter of LSTA, and I went and observed them when they went to read to the students at PLE. I went to the Glow Show, which was an art show at Greenwood Elementary. We met with the student representatives and had a really awesome, productive meeting with them. Lee Summit West industrial tech classes. So I was invited by Wesley Whisker to come out to his classes, and so I went multiple days and was able to participate in helping them build the Buddy bookcases that we're going to be giving away. So that was so much fun. And when I tell you the camaraderie in that room, in that class that he's built, it's such a beautiful, beautiful thing. And it's kids from all walks of life. It's kids from, different backgrounds, and they're coming together, working on projects, encouraging one another, and it's super cool. So kudos to you. Titan Smart, I joined the Titan Smart team at LFE as they talked about being bucket fillers and talked about bullying and things like that with the kiddos. I went to the Parents of Struggling Readers and Dyslexic Learners event. I also went to the Wellbeing Night hosted by our Lee Summit Ed Foundation and our LSR7 student support team members, and it was an incredible night as well. So that is my report.
All right, Board Member Eslick.
I attended the Taste of Lee Summit with most of the other board members here, and it was a great event. Once again, it was my second time going, so it's a great fundraiser for the district, and I love to see all the participation. I attended the Workforce Alliance quarterly meeting and got to hear from our STA partners about the student work engagement opportunities that they've been cultivating with our community business partners. So that was really engaging to hear about how they're trying to get our students involved. And there's a strong partnership on both sides, just trying to figure out the right way to communicate to our students and make sure that they're fitting them with the right opportunities for internships. So I love that program, and it was really great to hear about that progress. I attended virtually the MSBA spring meeting. Was able to listen to most of that, and a lot of that, if you sat in on it, I'm sure the rest of the board members are aware, but we talked, the conversation was a lot about the legislative update. So that was informative. I attended, again, virtually, the Ed Foundation board meeting. They were gracious enough to allow me to call in as I was traveling for work. I sat in with Board President Sparks on one of the Teacher Academy panels, and I thought that was great, a great opportunity to have some dialogue with students who are thinking or committed to going into the field of education. Some of them were teachers, some had decided through the program that teaching wasn't actually what they wanted to do, but maybe they wanted to be a para or they wanted to do some other support role within education. So obviously that's a fantastic program to give them the opportunity to explore whether that's the career path for them and give them opportunities to engage with our Grow Your Own program. And lastly, I attended the Finance Committee meeting. Actually, there is one thing I wanted to say in the Finance Committee report that I didn't. I just actually wanted to mention the design contracts that we're approving in our items for consent, because in that meeting, if you didn't get a chance to listen, we had some dialogue around the cost of those design contracts. And they are hefty, but I think one of the things that I took out of that was when we seek our 2025 bond and we have the opportunity to get that approved by the public, if it does pass, then we're able to reimburse up to 18 months of any of the costs that we incurred in relation to that bond, because these design contracts are for making our large projects like Greenwood Elementary and MIC renovations shovel ready. So those are the two probably largest projects that we would be seeking for the bond in 2025. And that's what we're trying to do, get all the design work ready, which is extremely labor intensive, which justifies, of course, the higher price tag. So those were just the items that I kind of wanted to draw attention to. But that's all I have. So thank you for entertaining my exception to the Finance Committee report.
We're all good. All right, Vice President Foley.
Thank you. So first I went to a government relations meeting where we learned about the Mark landfill study. Then I went to the Lee Summit Educational Foundation's Taste of Lee Summit. Went to the Lee Summit North, Lee Summit High, and Lee Summit West robotics open houses. I have been able to watch a few of the matches online on Twitch, and I'm excited to see it in person next week. I attended a webinar on leveraging state data for an educator pipeline. I attended the Chamber of Commerce Forum for the Board of Education candidates. Attended the board leadership meeting, the MSBA spring virtual meeting, Woodland Elementary third grade choir concert, some Disney hits, it was pretty awesome. The government relations meeting where I heard both perspectives on the upcoming 3/8 sales tax that's going to be on the ballot. The Miller Park 100th birthday and new building celebration. The Teacher of the Year Selection Committee meeting. And the Parents of Struggling Readers and Dyslexic Learners Literacy Night. And then today I went with a group to surprise the Excellence in Teaching winners and the Teacher of Distinction winners. Thank you.
All right. So my monthly events have been Lee Summit Cares board meeting. I am really excited to be able to continue to work on that board. We're doing a lot of revamping. And with saying that, there's 2 events that I want the board to be aware of, and that is April the 22nd. That is on a Monday from 6:30 to 8:30. It will be taking place at the Missouri Innovation Campus, and it's purpose is going to be mental well-being, and we're going to be hearing from Eastern Jackson County students. And so this is going to be a student panel, and we have all sorts of sponsors: Rediscover, Lee Summit Cares, Prodeo, Police Department, links to Lee Summit, and of course the school district. And so that is one event I would encourage you to attend. Also, we're going to be doing our drug take back, and so your prescriptions that are no longer needed, if you would please be prepared to show up with them on April the 27th so that you can get rid of them correctly. And again, they are also sponsored by Police Department, Lee Summit Cares, First Call, and our district. MSBA cohort meeting. This was, if anybody remember, in our annual MSBA, they had 2 cohorts, one for board members of color, and then also cohort for our rural members. And so we are doing planning meetings so that we can prepare for the next annual session for MSBA. Also, Taste of Lee Summit was wonderful. I was able to contribute, and I know many of you also did the same. That is something we need to continue to do. That is how we're able to provide grants and things for our teachers. And so let's continue to support our Ed Foundation. Also, Summit Points, Pancakes with Panthers. That was great. It was the thing that's out front on the dais is also the students that's recognizing the Board of Education for our service and our work. And so if you have an opportunity, please email the school and let them know that you appreciate their kind words and their encouragement to us. 2 days with Teachers Academy with board member S, as she's mentioned. One of the things that I also think is fascinating to know is we have students that are going to be graduating that are also getting their substitute certification. So they're literally coming out of our high school and they're preparing to start subbing in our district. And so when we talk about the shortage of educators and things of that nature, I really appreciate Ms. Turner because she's creating this environment of excitement around education, and I think we need to continue to support that work. Miller Park birthday party, it was wonderful. Katie, you and your team did a wonderful job, and it was obviously an honor to be able to speak. MSBA President's Meeting, this is something that's also new that I appreciate Ruth Johnson, who is our president for MSBA. She has allowed all presidents from the different regions to come onto a Zoom call to basically ask any questions on to making us better in our leadership role. And so that is something that I think has been very helpful for myself. Literacy Night was awesome, big attendance. Also, Lee Summit High School hosting the Student Wellbeing Summit was also awesome. All of the vendors that decided to participate, that was also great to be able to see. And then last but not least, board leadership meeting. It's always an honor to be able to give leadership along with Vice President Foley in that way. And so that concludes our reports.
If you would indulge me, President Sparks,
Yes.
last night's the well-being thing, just a quick shout out to one of the vendors, Screen Sanity. Excellent presentation, and also I think they've been in contact, I think, even prior to the event last night. And so I just wanted to give a quick shout out because that, as more and more people have highlighted screen concerns, obviously, throughout, just wanted to say that, they were there last night and they had an excellent presentation.
Absolutely, and we could really talk for days with all of the information that they was able to provide. And then even just the resources that they had at the tables. They had the gun locks for you to be able to lock your guns safely in your homes and things of that nature. So just the resources that they had, I'm looking forward to seeing those things continue and to make sure that we support it in any way that we can as a district. All right, so our next item, we have items for decision, which is going to be finance. Can I have approval of transferring of funds, 5.01?
I move to approve the transfer of, I'm sorry, I can't see the number here.
Turn your mic on.
Sorry. I move to approve the transfer of $3,169,427.19 from the general fund to the special revenue fund.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, raise your right hand, say aye. Okay, none opposed, motion passes. Approval of Treasury's report and payments of the bills, 5.02. Can I have a motion?
I move to approve the treasurer's report and the payment of bills.
Second. Anyone?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, raise your right hand and say aye. Okay, none opposed, motion passes. All right, so we're now at our items for decision, and as we did a amendment to our agenda, consent, sorry, what did I say? Oh, no, we're items for decisions for consent, which is gonna be 6.01, I'm jumping the gun, all the way down to 6.15. Can I have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, none opposed. There we go. Now we're at our items for decision, and we have speakers that are going to be speaking on some agenda topics that we're going to be voting on. And so prior to us voting, we want to hear from those constituents. And so, Ms. Eslick, if you can go ahead and read the parliamentarian rules, and then we will announce those three individuals that are speaking to those items.
We appreciate your attendance and your willingness to speak to the board. Please remember that the board does not respond to public comments during the meeting, but may ask clarifying questions. Your comments will be noted by the board and administration, and if appropriate, we will discuss further action with the superintendent. Only those who have signed up prior to the meeting will be allowed to address the board. Pursuant to board policy BDDH, we will be limiting all comments to no more than 7 people with a limit of 3 minutes each. You may not transfer any of your time to other speakers. Your allotted 3 minutes will be counted down on the screen. Please conclude your comments when the timer expires. Your comments must align with the subject described in your written request to speak and must directly relate to the business or operations of the district. Your comments may not discuss individual employees or students in the district, regardless of whether your comments speak of them in a positive or negative light. Any such comments should be directed to the superintendent, who will then determine if further action is needed. Because the board does not and cannot impose age-based restrictions on who attends or views board meetings, and because children of all ages frequently do attend board meetings, comments may not include obscenities or sexually explicit content. Furthermore, comments may not include threats of physical or emotional harm or threaten in any way the safety of others. We also remind all those in the audience that board policy BDDH prohibits the use of signs or audible responses. This includes applause, jeers, or cheers. If you are in the audience and wish to respond in some way to a public comment, you may contact the board or superintendent after the meeting. When your name is called, go to the podium and clearly state your name and the organization which you represent, if any. I assume you want me to call out the 3 at the bottom. All right. First speaker is Devoya Marshall.
Good evening. As mentioned, my name is Devoya Marshall. Most of you know I have 4 boys in the district. I have just come from a Campbell track meet, hence my attire. I'm missing a North track meet right now with 2 students, and I have another one at track practice. But this was really important tonight, so I wanted to be here. Tonight, I wanted to bring our focus to the reason we are all here tonight, our children. I'm pretty sure our children don't show up to school in pieces, where one day they only send one arm, one leg, and a head to school. If our children show up to school with their whole body, why would we not address the whole child? You may hear some numerical data related to our students tonight, but I love that we heard about real-world learning from our students, so let's discuss some real-life data. Did you know that at one point there was no school lunch? The school lunch movement first began in Europe in the 1700s when educators observed that many children were arriving at school each day hungry. Schools were not equipped to provide meals, and hungry children had a difficult time concentrating on their studies. It was through the efforts of individuals and private charities that the serious problems of malnutrition in children was first addressed. Public education brought the haunting image of a starving child to the attendance of society. This is the reason This is the reason lunch programs began and has persisted despite opposition in a pattern which began in Europe and was later repeated in the US. What if we had never addressed this issue? Would students be as successful today? We know that other factors besides hunger affect how children learn. As our world progresses, we need to progress forward, not backwards. There are a number of social and emotional factors affecting the health, well-being, and personal, physical, social, and emotional development of children, such as gender, types of families, parenting styles, educational experiences, culture, and racial diversity. Of course, academics are a priority. Of course, the safety of our students and staff is important. Social and emotional learning is crucial to all of our students at every level of school, which is why we need to vote to approve the use of character-strong learning curriculum for 6th through 12th grade. Which brings me to our next point, which I'll try to get through quickly. Variety, the quality of being fair and impartial, and the action or state of including or being included. These terms are otherwise known as DEI, but since there's so much politics and controversy surrounding these letters, I decided not to use them. As a community member, relabeled them as didn't earn it. There was an incident that happened in one of our high schools this week that made the news. It caused the community to respond and repeat some hateful language. There have been public comments made from Lee Summit teachers that have not been inclusive. We've made the topic of safety divisive. This is the exact reason why we need to approve the Dignity Consulting proposal as provided for the 2025 school year so that we can continue to learn more about each other, where we've been and where we need to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Emily James.
All right. Good evening, school board members and residents of the Lee Summit community. I am here to discuss the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion training and why it's critical and crucial for our teachers to have this training. I'll talk about 6 topics, but first I'll let you know that I am a resident of Lee Summit. My husband and I have been in the community for several years, and we are raising 4 children in the district. So the first topic that I would like to talk about is the cultural competence that diversity, equity, and inclusion training brings. It helps teachers understand diverse cultures, backgrounds, and perspective amongst all students, fostering empathy and respect. Examples of this would be understanding the different social norms from different cultures and learning communication styles and styles of expression. Diversity, equity, and inclusion training promotes equitable practices. DEI training equips teachers with the tools and recognizes and addresses biases, ensuring fair treatment and opportunities for all students regardless of their backgrounds. These are specific teacher practices that are applied in the classroom to proactively confront any barriers to academic progress that disproportionately affects minority students. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, it provides an inclusive classroom environment. Teachers learn strategies to create inclusive learning environments where all students feel valued, respected, and safe to express themselves. Diversity, equity, and inclusion also promotes effective communication. Teachers here are provided with the communication skills to enable them to effectively engage with students, their families, and colleagues from various cultural backgrounds. Diversity, equity, and inclusion also closes the achievement gap. It does this by addressing the inequities and promoting an inclusive practice. Diversity, equity training helps educators identify and mitigate factors contributing to achievement gaps among students from different demographics. Lastly, it prepares our students for a diverse society. When we look at the board and the wall behind us, it says we prepare each student for success in life. So when we apply those metrics and we apply those tactics, to that diversity, inclusion, equity training for our teachers, it's going to encourage and promote the diverse perspectives that's needed to cultivate an environment where it provides what we consider group thinking. This type of thinking results in more innovative solutions through enhanced collaboration. In closing, diversity, equity, and inclusion training empowers teachers to create more equitable, inclusive, and supporting learning environments, ultimately benefiting all students and society as a whole. Thank you.
Next speaker is Kristen Grubbs.
My name is Kristen Grubbs, and I'm here to address the contract renewal with Dignity Consulting. If I were to use terms like blacks and blackness to describe a people group and accuse the group of being exclusive and entitled and of having an inflated sense of value, I'd be labeled a racist, a bigot, and a white supremacist. Yet that's what our professional development book, Belonging Through a Culture of Dignity, does. It blames whites as the dominant culture for unequal outcomes in public education. If I were to walk into our schools tomorrow and blame our district staff for the achievement gap and tell them that they must confront themselves and fundamentally change to produce an environment that's inclusive enough for all students to be able to learn, I'd be escorted from the premises and called crazy. Yet that's what this belonging book says is necessary to be inclusive. If I were to alter the definition of one familiar word, then write a book and build a curriculum and a training program based around this redefined word, I'd be laughed out of professional circles for having no credibility. Yet, that's exactly what Floyd Cobb and John Cranapple have done. They redefined dignity and claimed the new definition to be common despite no major dictionaries using it. These two men have managed to gain the approval of this district, winning contracts, if I include tonight's renewal, totaling over $276,000. And the most concerning part of these facts is that our district leaders have read Cobb and Cronapple's book, and they keep going back for more. For those of you in the audience wondering why LSR7 is not the destination district it used to be, wonder no more. District leaders are constantly celebrating our teachers, all while paying Dignity Consulting to come in and tell our non-diverse teachers, which account for about 90%, that they need to fundamentally change. On another note, the district is presenting this contract renewal at a cost of $23,900, a cost reduction of $27,700 from last year's contract. But what the district doesn't want to share, or it has not yet, is the hidden expenses like the $90,000 estimated to cover substitutes so teachers can be made available for this life-changing training. To our current board members and our future board members, I implore you to do better. Do better for our teachers. Do better for our students. And to everyone listening, don't forget to vote on April 2nd.
All right, we're going to go ahead and go to our next order of business. Items for decision, we're going to look at 7.01, Character Strong Curriculum for grades 6 through 12. Dr. Buck, who's going to be presenting?
Ms. Sanders, or is there Jesse? Dr. Segan will come up at first.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm really happy to be here on behalf of the RFP committee that chose Character Strong as our social and emotional learning curriculum for next year. Do I have the floor or do I take questions first?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead and you have the floor.
Okay. I would just like to talk a little bit about the process in choosing Character Strong. This year, we do have Caring School Communities, K through 5. We've had that for a number of years, and we use Second Step for 6 through 8. So we wanted to have a curriculum that we had for 6 through 12 with fidelity because Second Step didn't go all the way to 12th grade. It ended at 8th grade. So we knew the importance of the social and emotional learning curriculum. Remember, for social, we're just talking about our interactions with others. That's all we're talking about. For the emotional piece, we're talking about regulating ourselves. That's it. So I just think about getting along with others and regulating our emotions so we can be successful at school, when we can be okay when others are not okay. In search of the curriculum, we developed our RFP team. We started it in August, and then we were told to pause because the state was trying to determine if they wanted to develop SEL standards and standardize it across the state. So we paused our process. In the meantime, we left the RFP open. We had vendors continuing to submit. And then we were told in November that the state said, we don't have them identified, we're giving the control back to the districts. And so we gave another month for the RFP to stay open, and that's when we closed it and had 21 vendors submit. On the RFP interview team, we had teacher representation, counselors, building level admin, and district admin. It was myself and Dr. Herzog on the team. We interviewed the top 5 that scored the highest on the paper, so we were looking for a number of specifics, and we brought those 5 in. Character Strong was the choice of all 11 RFP committee members based on not only the paper interview that we conducted, but also the in-person interview that we conducted. Character Strong just becomes a part of the school culture. The sessions are intentional, engaging, and they encourage students to respond with empathy and kindness. The RFP committee liked them for not only those reasons, but also they do not require much prep. They're just ready to go, and other districts also love the program. We just want to teach our kids because we want to keep them safe. We know that's a board priority, and we want to keep our discipline down. And we know by some of our kiddos may have these skills missing, right? We focus on academic skills when those are missing. And so here we can help our students regulate themselves, teach them about being kind to others, getting along, making friends. And so that is why we chose the Character Strong curriculum at this time.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. Can I
Yes.
please have a motion?
I move to approve the use of Character Strong as our social and emotional learning curriculum for all students in grades 6 through 12.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All right, now open for discussion. Okay, Board Member Eslick.
So we started to have the conversation on the finance committee meeting, but I'm going to return to it now that we're in the board meeting and everybody can talk through it.
Okay.
Again, I want to ask about the study that was done on the efficacy for Character Strong. And just to preface, I think anything that we select for our staff, and I'm sure you agree, if we're going to put our teachers through any sort of training and require them, I believe it's 3 hours of PD, I just really strongly believe that anything that we do in that vein should be demonstrated effective and proven. So that's really why I'm asking the questions about the study and why I'm kind of invested in understanding the thoughts around the study from the 11 committee members. So can you tell me, did the 11 members read the study prior to deciding?
They did. That wasn't a part of what we submitted in the RFP asking specifically for statistical significance. There were a variety of things that we were looking for. However, I do appreciate that question about the efficacy of the program, the effectiveness, and the statistical significance. So I read more into that as well. And I know that our committee members really did the work that we asked them to do, and the statistical significance wasn't on there, but the effectiveness was overall. But I do appreciate that, and I would like to speak to that. You are right that it was not statistically significant in all areas, but it was in some. They were trying to prevent biases because they did the study for 8 months, and the participation rate went way down after COVID. And so in order to prevent biases, they used the independent sample t-tests, and then they ran descriptive statistics for the outcomes. So the independent sample t-test showed statistical significance as denoted as in the Hedges G. The effect size tells you how much one group differs from the other. Sometimes it'll be between experimental groups and control groups, and in this case it was the pre and post groups who participated. There can be biased upward without the formula if the sample size is smaller than 50, so it was not in this case. And Hedges G is sometimes called the corrected effect size. So the statistical significance that was shown was that the portrayed behaviors were more conducive to learning, and there were higher levels of feeling safe perceived both by staff and students. The areas that did not have statistical significance were general absences from school and serious misbehaviors. So those were the outliers there.
Okay, I'm gonna back up just a little bit, really just for the benefit of other people in the room.
Mhm.
And so the reason why the pushback on this study in the first place, really just for everybody else.
Mhm.
The study that I'm referring to was conducted between October 2019 and May 2020, and this was the applied Character Strong in 14 schools. And the concern that I had was that in March of 2020, this study was still going on. They had an initial pre-test number of 6,400 students, and at the post-test, where they're evaluating the effectiveness as compared to a control group and a non-treatment group, they had 1,000 total students by the end of it. So with the treatment group specifically, they had an 89% attrition rate of post-test survey students. And on the post-test, when they backfilled with other students, they used sixth graders in the post-test group. They didn't use sixth graders in the pre-test group. So there's a lot of variance to me in this study, and trying to really see how that can be problematic when you're trying to determine whether a program is effective and you have mass attrition in the data that you're collecting and the people that you're able to survey in the process. And I think we can all agree that just the conditions, the overall conditions of what was going on in school were not normal. So comparing a normal school environment pre-test to a not normal school environment post-test, plus all the attrition of the students taking the test in the first place, it's difficult for me to see the value, but the value of the data, to your point about what had improved. So you said school safety for students?
For students and for staff.
Okay. So, do you know what that, so
Would have been
this is on a 5-point scale, so where,
It would have been
well-
the student school climate survey.
okay. So, when you say
And the teacher one.
statistically significant, the spread, are you comparing it to the pretest, or are you comparing it to the control group? When you're saying that that's more improved, because the difference is 0.17 points on a 5-point scale is the difference between control and treatment.
Yes, and it's in the Hedges G as well, so that changes. I know that changes the significance.
I'll be honest, I don't know what that means because I'm not a statistician.
And you're right, and I appreciated the transparency that they provided in their research brief to say that this was an atypical year, and the information that we gathered was not typical, and so they tried to make things to where they could gather it they could identify the significance. So they found a significantly higher level of perceived school safety reported by the students in the intervention group compared to those who were in the control group. And then
I don't want to interrupt you, but I mean, how can they weren't in school. How can they determine school safety? I just don't understand. Maybe somebody else can shed light. I guess I just don't understand how that is how we can even say that that's an improvement. Of course, maybe they felt more safe because they were at home. I mean.
Well, it went from September of 2019 to June of 2020. And so there were a few months where, yes, they were not in school, but the majority of that time they were in school from September to March.
Right.
Board Member Russell, if it would help, Jessie, that's her research. That's what they're reporting, so it's hard for Jessie to answer for them. I just want to.
Oh, I know, but
make sure we protect what the person
No,
up here
I
is trying to say.
I understand. Sorry, I'm not trying to
No, you're okay.
You're the only person that is in front of me that had interaction with Character Strong and was part of the vetting process. So obviously I don't have anybody from Character Strong to ask these questions to. I hear you. Just for me, I just don't see, it's not about the cost, and despite what the politicized language and some of the comments from this evening have suggested, it's really not about the fact that it's SEL, because I agree with you. I think that we need to make sure that our students are equipped with the skills that they may be missing to be able to navigate personal relationships, professional relationships, and do exactly what it says up there. And I don't have a problem at all supporting a program that says, yes, it works, we applied it in a school, here's the data to show it, and these were the metrics that we saw that improved. I think another just problematic point for me, and really this is just for our board, for the rest of our board members, is in this room, not just me, other board members, and even some staff have acknowledged that the panorama questions, the way that they're phrased and the data that we glean from that is also problematic. And in this study, panorama was used as the pre and post survey. That's what we would plan to use to gauge whether this program would be effective or not. And we've had acknowledgement in this room in the past that panorama may not be the best tool to really get that type of information from our students. Everything from whether they participate wholly, whether they actually invest time in answering the questions and really give them thoughtful responses, and just the wording of the questions, like some that I personally find a little problematic in terms of negative slant. At your school, how unfairly do adults treat students? That starts from the presumption that the students are being treated unfairly by adults. So that's the framework that they're looking at this question and applying an answer to. So you're probably going to get a negative response when you frame it that way, because that's what you're presenting a student. That's how they're supposed to think about it. How much do you feel like you belong? Of course, that's a question that we use in our CSIP. How much do you matter to others? These are extremely subjective on the day that the student takes the test.
So and we acknowledge what you're saying as well, and if you guys were to approve this and we were to check it to see its effectiveness, we have questions that we put in the CSIP specifically related to feeling safe. So whether it's panorama or us just checking in with students to make sure that they feel safe, to make sure that they belong, and then of course we can look at our discipline data to see the effect of it as well, because this would be tier 1, all students in 6 through 12. So it doesn't, regardless of the platform we use, we will absolutely be checking to make sure that kids feel safe, and the verbiage that we use in the question, we want to make sure that board members feel the verbiage is appropriate.
Okay, thanks.
Welcome.
Well, I think that's all I've got. Actually, I'm going to say one more thing about panorama, because I find this really fascinating. In this study, they cite why they use panorama. And when they did that, they explained that there was a study that was conducted on how high quality the questions were that come from panorama. The study that was cited was conducted by Panorama on Panorama. So I think you can pretty much just throw that out, because any company that is going to do a study on itself is, of course, going to give itself positive reviews. You would probably never see a company that would say my product doesn't work. So I'm not sure that that's really proof positive that those questions yield results that they're supposed to yield, and that they are statistically sound ways of questioning students. There's a number of surveys out there, by the way, and I have no problem with a survey. Again, it's just which one do we select? So I just want to say that I don't have a problem with SEL programs. It's just which one we select and does it work? If we're going to ask our teachers to do it, it should be effective. There should be research-backed evidence to prove that, and we should be able to stand behind it when we ask our teachers to implement something. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm done. Thanks.
Board Member Miller.
Thank you for your presentation. I did some research as well on Character Strong, and one thing I want to say is that I think making sure that we implement programming to support students learning about conflict resolution, to learn about empathy, to learn about emotional intelligence and emotion regulation. There's nothing negative about that. And in fact, if we as adults would have learned some of those things as children, we might not be as divisive, divided. And so I think implementing a program that could help our students be able to resolve conflict and have empathy is really positive. I went through you can all go to Character Strong, and within the website, they actually have sample lessons for different grade levels. And so I went through the lessons myself because I wanted to see what they were all about. and I was very pleased with the information that was provided. It was simple for a person who hasn't been formally trained on the curriculum. It was simple for me to be able to go through and understand it, and I could certainly see how it could be beneficial for our staff, our students. One of the things that they said in there, which I really liked, was connection doesn't happen on accident. We create meaningful, small opportunities to facilitate building those relationships with one another. And their focus is on engagement, belonging, and well-being, all positive things. The other thing that I just want to point out is that this particular curriculum is based in, with a foundation in CASEL, which is basically the gold standard when we talk about social emotional learning. And in fact, when I went to the National School Board Association conference this year in DC, across the board, people were talking about a variety of different social emotional learning curriculum, all based in CASEL. All of them are based in CASEL. So I just wanted to just say I am supportive of this curriculum, and I think our students, our older students, it'd be a very positive outcome for both them and our staff. So that's what I wanted to share.
Board Member Murdoch.
Thanks, President Sparks. I have a couple of follow-up questions here in regards to this. First off, what school districts in the area are using this? Or are there?
Not in the direct vicinity close to us.
Kearney is probably the one I know that's closest to us.
Do we know how long Kearney has been using it? No. Is there others even within Missouri, Kansas that we would be able to?
I don't know about that, but I know Dr. Barger and I talked to Kearney last week, and they said they're satisfied with it because we knew this was a board agenda topic coming up, and we knew they used it.
Okay. So to both of the previous board members' points, right? We got your message, and I went through the study too, and I will tell you that I do find concerns with that particular study, and I wish that in this particular case that there would be some kind of follow-up with districts either in and around our area or some other study, essentially, even if it has to be, and this is going to sound counterintuitive to what Board Member Essick would even like here, but something even from 2022 to 2023, once the pandemic was over, from a school district who is using this to actually come to us and say, hey, this is actually working, right? Even to some degree, right? You wouldn't even have the end results. But I think that there would be something more to be said than trying to rely on a study that Character Strong published on their website. The flip side of that is I did the same thing you did, Board Member Miller. I went and I looked at all of the sample lessons, and to one of our teachers' points who said the current SEL curriculum is a little bit too childish, which I actually kind of agree with, I found the lessons much more appropriate in this particular site. I did have a conversation with another board member, just to be transparent about this, and saying that I'm not sure that we have the questions answered that we need to have answered to actually act on this. That's my personal opinion, because we get the study data back, which I think does raise some questions and red flags. But on the flip side, we have anecdotal good evidence from their website, from what it's supposed to do. And I am a strong supporter in that I think that we need a curriculum. So, President Sparks, what I'm going to tell you here tonight is I would personally like, this is only me, I would like for us to table this for 2 weeks so that I can submit more questions. That's where I would like to be tonight, because I think some of the data we can flesh out. I think getting to ask questions about some of the sample lessons we would be able to flesh out. And to be able to learn a little bit more about the program than what we were able to glean from the packet answers prior to today. And so I just want to be fully upfront that I would like for us to table it for 2 weeks and bring it back on the 11th, since the next meeting is so quick, right? I'd like for us to bring it back in 2 weeks so that we can ask more questions. Because I don't think we have the level of detail necessary to pass it. And I just want to be clear, I would not support it tonight. So.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, President Sparks. I just wanted to share that if that is the decision, that I know representation would be happy to come from Character Strong as well to answer additional questions. And we can definitely talk to other school districts to provide more information as well.
I think, for me, that would be helpful for me.
Board Member Dr. Johnson.
Thank you. So full transparency, I believe Ryan was talking about me when we were talking about this topic here. And I have to say I'm in support of curriculum. I'm in support of this. I understand about statistical significance and things like that. I also know just from a background of science, sometimes anecdotal information and anecdotal data is important and has a lot of weight to it. Now that Ryan has presented that, I almost feel like my questions are kind of mute at this point, but I still want to ask them because there's still some things that have been on my mind since this has come up. We looked at the efficacy study for Character Strong. Were any of the other groups' efficacy studies during the COVID period, and did they look similar?
I don't have the answer to that.
Got you, right. And I didn't think so because I'm like, we probably didn't look that far into the efficacy study since that wasn't the group we looked at. So, and that I understood, I expected that answer. The other thing is if we could pick any group, just pie in the sky, you could have any SEL you wanted. Sorry. Is this it? Or are there others? And I'm just curious, or are others on this list? I know there were 11 of you.
Right.
So forgive me, I'm sorry, but were there RFPs we would have wanted to see maybe, and we didn't get them because there's a group we really like?
I will say that we did our due diligence, and Krista Battaglia and her team were amazing. We invited lots of vendors to submit, and they did not submit. And I will say that on the team, very valued and respectable team members on that team, and Character Strong rose way up to the top, way more than the other ones. And sorry if any of those vendors are watching this right now, but that's just a matter of fact. So we were very pleased with Character Strong by everything that we were presented, but not everybody submitted an RFP, and so this is what we had these 21 to choose from.
Absolutely, I totally understand.
Mm-hmm.
Do we anticipate that using this program for a certain time period, because I see there's a roll-off, do we anticipate any harm in terms of time, students or teachers anticipate? And like, I saw this as we can only go up from here. Even if we go up 5%, we can only go up from here. Do we anticipate any downsides with implementing this program?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay.
No.
That's what I was curious to know, right? And so, again, if people have more questions, I would like those to be answered. But I feel like, again, with the significance, totally understand this having something statistically significant. But I think in our case and in our state, in our society, honestly, even if they helped 1,000 people in that study, 1,000 children touched 7 other people, potentially. Mm-hmm. And so just thinking about, again, the emotional impact of that, I just think that, that's something to consider when we're thinking about our children in the schools, that even if it didn't reach as many in that specific group, when we're all working together and learning together, we also touch other lives at the same time. And again, that's not going to be a number we're going to be able to, 1,000 lives touch 3,000. But I think overall, increasing community and increasing that social awareness about yourself is helpful. So that's all.
And the folks on that RFP are just really respectable folks in the district, colleagues who put a lot of thought and time and commitment into this process, and we're really pleased with this program, and I respect their opinions a lot.
Right. And I want to add that too. Again, I'm always about the professionals. Mm-hmm. I could not pick this curriculum. And so I also kind of feel weird kind of tearing it apart too. I'm like, I don't know if I could pick this. And so I do appreciate the expertise, and I know we all do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice President Foley?
Thank you. So I think if we are going to have a delay, I think that would remove a couple of my questions, but I would just ask this up front. You know, even if you cannot answer it now, maybe that's something we can consider in a couple weeks if we bring it back. But the Character Strong website headline says, equipping educators to support whole child success. Research-backed curricula and training that increase belonging, well-being, and engagement for students and staff. Okay, so since we found that the study that they cite is faulty due to lack of participation follow-up, I find it concerning that this is what they use as their face of their advertising, being research-backed or evidence-based. So were those phrases taken into consideration when the decision was made to select them as a vendor? Like, did that elevate them because they said they were research-backed? And if the evidence-based phrase was removed from their presentation, do you think the group still would have supported it? Do you think they have enough references from other districts that are using it that say, yeah, it's great, even if the evidence isn't there because the study was during COVID and it was a junk study? Like, do you think there's still enough evidence right now that would say that it is a good program to use?
I can only speculate, just knowing that they don't have any data past the 2020. But I will say that that was one of the components that we were looking for, was that it did have evidence that reporting that the curriculum was overall effective. And so that was obviously one of the indicators. And so, but we don't have any new data showing that. I respectfully disagree, just based on what the research shows, that part of it was statistically significant and then the other part of it was not. And so there's that to consider as well.
Any other questions? From Vice President, I know I'm making sure Vice President Foley is finished.
No, I think I can wait on the other ones.
Is it on this item? Okay. Board Member Garrett?
Thank you again, Ms. Egan, for all that information for the presentation. With anything new, and I totally had the same concerns that Board Member Foley had, and I just wanted to make sure, because of those questionables, that everything is presented, all T's are crossed, I's are dotted, that before we make such an investment for our kids. And I don't want the public to think that we don't, agree with this side behind us and that we don't support social emotional learning, because I think a no vote is just because we don't have all the information to be able to totally get on board with this particular program. And I think that was an excellent idea for Board Member Murdoch, that to go ahead and table it and let us have more information, and that we can discuss this at the next board meeting. So I just appreciate all the information, though, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Johnson, did you push it again? Okay, go ahead.
And I also want to point out that, so I did contact Dr. Buck earlier today and asked the number of students. We had 6 through K. I looked at the cost, and I know we're not saying that cost is an issue, but we are talking about a 3-year period, and we're talking about $7.94 a student. I say that to say, I want to also consider the amount of energy being put into this that could be helpful for less than like a Big Mac meal at McDonald's. Mm-hmm. Like, really, I mean, I want the teachers to be happy, and I want them to want something also. But again, even talking about the amount of time spent already on all of the RFPs and the amount of money is going to be spent, we're talking $8 a student. And is that going to hurt for increase in emotions and social learning?
Board Member Murdoch?
Thank you, sir. For the other 6, as long as we're talking about this, how about I just ask my questions that I was gonna submit? Is that fair? Let's just do it, right?
If that's what you would like to do.
Let's just do this. That way then, if we want to make a decision tonight, we can make a decision tonight. Okay, so I have five questions then, and I think you'll be able to answer most of these. So I don't think I'll be catching you too far off guard
Okay.
on this, okay? So oddly, to the last point, right, we have thousands of students, obviously, that would receive it, since this is a Tier 1 support. Can you give us essentially a timeline on-ramp for the programming here going into the fall? Like from a training perspective to what we anticipate from a timeline of it filtering down into the buildings to the students, and then essentially when we would hope to start to collect some of the meaningful data on the back end.
Would that be a question for Dr. Herxall, since
Well,
he would
it
be
could
the
be
I
one?
was
either.
just going to invite him
Yeah,
up
sorry,
to
it
speak
could
with
be either,
me.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Either way would be fine.
Because it is the 3 hours of
Sure.
professional development that he could speak to for the secondary folks on when that time would be allotted.
Okay, that would be great.
Yeah.
So the question I heard was like timeline to on-ramp, correct?
Yeah, from a training, essentially from a training module, the 3 hours, right, to us hopefully getting it implemented and/or it filtering into and working within our buildings to then the first meaningful data that we might receive in terms of the results that we might be getting.
Yeah, I would say from a PD perspective, you're looking at 3 hours, which we have that available to us in the fall. In August, we would have that time back to school. We would also have that time in November as well. Those are the 2 dates that are really available to train staff. So you could effectively train all staff through the first semester of next school year. And if you on-ramp that and move into starting in a second semester timeline, then I feel like you could implement in second semester potentially, and then, but you'd still be looking at probably another year. I mean, you're only doing it for 1 semester. So you need to keep doing that into the next school year. So you're probably looking into the 25-26 school year to get meaningful data back after implementation. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah, I would say fall 25 earliest, and then
For data coming back.
Fall 25 earliest, likely spring 26 would be more realistic for a full year implementation.
Okay, so second question from Character Strong is one of the things that was noted is that the cost would decrease in the following years. Can you articulate exactly how that is going to decrease, the why for the decrease for people who obviously probably didn't read the contract, things like that? Can you tell us why that's going to actually decrease?
Yes, the first year was the 45,000. That included the 3 hours of training for every certified staff member who would be implementing this program. So that's where the heavier load comes from. And then after that, it's 17 for the second year and 17 for the third year. And that's because there's no PD involved. That would be for the programming and access to the lessons and the resources.
Okay. Question 3 is actually more towards where Board Member Eslick had even mentioned before in terms of how we're even going to come across or get the data that we would actually want or the questions asked. You indicated in one of your previous answers that then if we needed to develop another tool to actually get the information that we would seek, right, to see if the program is working or not, that we would be able to do that.
Yes.
Can you give me some kind of background on what that looks like and how much our district already does things like that?
So right now we do use the panorama to garner information about belonging and safety. I was just saying that regardless of the platform in our CSIP, we do have questions around perceived school safety, how others get along in the building and the sense of belonging. So regardless of the platform that is used, those same questions will be asked of our students and of our staff.
And Dr. Buck, so question 4, Dr. Buck, this may come to you because I know that you had mentioned even prior to tonight that there was another district obviously closed that you thought was close, Kearney, that was using this. And so my question that I would have sent tomorrow morning would be is, when we talked to Kearney to actually figure out if the program was working, is there any way for you to elaborate a little bit on kind of what we asked them about and or what they liked about the program, didn't like about the program, that kind of thing.
Dr. Barger might be able to better answer that because she had a longer conversation with them. So they were using it, they were satisfied with it. That's what I got from them. But no, I have no data.
And
from
I
them.
wasn't meaning that. I was just more curious what the conversation really was surrounding it.
What
And then-
I've got,
go ahead.
sorry, just from the districts that I've seen, and they're not local, but just that it becomes like a part of their language. They just say that they're a character strong school, and literally like it's staff and students, and it just becomes a part of their culture. The lessons are things that they can do with each other each day, like go up to somebody and give a compliment, you know, and just kind activities. And so it's embedded in who they are and how they treat others.
So I lied. I actually have 6 questions. The 5th question: what's the flexibility within the lessons that are available and how they are presented at a staff level, especially as we understand the mass differences in the development of middle school kids in this exact arena in social and emotional learning and their capabilities to regulate themselves versus an 18-year-old senior who obviously has completely different ways to regulate themselves? What's the flexibility within this particular program to address that?
So it's differentiated by grade level when you go in.
And I saw that on their website. I guess, sorry, and I didn't mean, that was really rude. I shouldn't have cut you off. But
That's okay.
within the lessons that I was actually looking at even, is there flexibility then once the teachers have had training even to then modify those, or are they going to be asked to follow those essentially pretty rigidly?
You know, Dr. Herzog and I haven't participated in the training, but I would think that it's not a script. They're not reading a script. They just have resources that are provided for them, and so and it tells the teacher like a guidepost of what they're presenting on. So if a teacher wanted to implement another activity that was related, they would have the flexibility to do that because it's not scripted. It just has components of the lesson embedded that's easy for the teacher to follow, but certainly if they had a class that they needed to differentiate, they would be able to do that.
President, or Board Member Murdoch, if I could, I'm struggling with this. So this is a third of the cost of Capturing Kids' Hearts, which we did in one building. We didn't ask this many questions of them, and yet we know the discipline data went down. I feel like we're getting into the weeds. We have a committee, 11 people who spent a lot of time on it, so I don't know. It feels like we're really getting into weeds here, but I don't think this is going to touch 7 buildings for a third of the cost we touched one building 2 years ago.
And let me, I've been patient, and I tend to try to be patient to allow the board to weigh in and to have their input. But I'm gonna say my comments, and then I'm going to call to question. And if y'all choose to vote it down, then that's fine. And then we can come back, and then we can move forward. But let me make a couple statements. Well, first, no, I'm gonna make statements. I'm not gonna ask questions. My first statement that I wanna make is this. We've spent almost, well, first, I'm gonna first say this. There's 2 topics in this district since I've been part of this district, I mean before I was on this board, that we do this type of grilling and we labor on. But then we want to be the district that is about belonging. And let me tell you those 2 topics, the 2 that we're dealing with tonight. One, on our equity work, which we now frame it with the words of belonging. And then the second one is around social and emotional learning. And while I'm happy that everyone that's running to be on this board supports SEL, we don't have SEL in our secondary level. But then we'll be the first ones to complain about being in the news or being in Lee Summit Tribune because we have students that don't know how to deal with emotions. And I'm struggling. I'm struggling that we have kids that don't know how to suppress, process conflict. And here is some material, curriculum, that has been presented to this board by the very people that everyone would say we should be listening to: teachers, principals, central office staff, and we have a superintendent that brought this before us. And then we're going to sit here and grill staff. We won't even do this grilling over the $8 million that we're about to pour in salaries. But then we have people that are saying we need more staff. So excuse me for my emotions right now, but I am struggling. I'm struggling that we are literally spending an hour about a $45,000 contract, and we spent $80,000 for a logo on a field. So Dr. Buck, I appreciate you stepping in and telling us that we're overstepping our boundaries and we're in the weeds. But if we're going to be in the weeds, then let's get in the weeds. Let's pull the budget apart and let's look at every single item. But when you go to MSBA, when you go to NSBA, they will tell you where your money is, where you spend it, that's where your heart is. And so if your heart is to prepare each and every student for success in life, then what does it take? And I'm going to tell you what it takes. It takes us addressing the entire and the whole child. That means we need a kid that can actually sit still, get in a classroom, and be able to have a teacher that can give them instruction so that they can learn. It's about embodying and enabling parents to be able to continue to nurture that child in their learning. And then ultimately, it's about our fun project, which is to show up to graduations and to see them walk across that stage and make whatever decision that is that they want to make. That's college, that's a career path, or that's going to serve our country via military. So, we have a motion, we have a second. And if I need to call the question, then that's what I'll do. Ms. Linda, roll call vote, please.
Board Member Sparks, I'm going to ask you to reconsider that so people can give a final remark. No more questions. Everybody should be allowed to give a final remark, because if you're going to expect me to make a vote tonight, which I've never voted against this stuff, and you're going to lecture me on it, then I at least should be allowed to tell you why I'm going to vote one way or the other. Everybody should be given that right.
I will give everyone that privilege, but let me say this, Board Member Eslick, while you're shaking your head. Okay, while you're nodding, and I appreciate your nod. But
Call me out.
I will.
Then call the action out appropriately, which was me nodding to his comment, had nothing to do with you.
I agree.
Okay.
So let me go on record. I acknowledge your nod to Board Member Murdoch. And what Board Member Murdoch just said was that he has supported this kind of work. That's what he said. Unfortunately, I can't say that about your vote about this type of work. So that's the reason why I'm acknowledging that. Okay. Board Member Murdoch and any board member that would like to speak with final comments, please do so, and then we can take this vote.
My final comment is very simple, okay? In that I agree we need an SEL curriculum. I agree that we have kids who need this kind of lessons. And one of the things, to Dr. Buck's point, maybe I shouldn't ask that many questions, but these were questions that I would have wanted to ask the following day to get to the support that I have given to these programs all along, okay? And Board Member Sparks, President Sparks, I would tell you that you probably are aware that my questions would have gotten me to a support, right? I don't think that there's very many people out there who think that I would vote against an SEL program, okay? And so calling the question tonight, understanding that we can have some of the data and we can continue to ask questions, which I probably will, just so you know, ask a few questions. I can turn right back around and say, I'll support this with everybody because I've done it all along, okay? But I do think it's important that people are able to ask those particular questions when they have them surrounding contracts. But I do acknowledge, Dr. Buck, to your point, right, that, and it's one of the reasons I even told you earlier this week, that I was behind on even getting the questions in, that's incumbent upon me, even on the others that I had, to get them sent in ahead of time, right? Totally respect that, okay? So that's where I will end tonight.
Is there anyone else that would like to weigh in with final comments? Board Member Miller, Dr. Johnson, Vice President Foley.
Okay, so first I want to say, I mean, we have well-educated staff that's taken time to vet all of these vendors, come to an agreement on what they think is best for our district and our students. And I don't know about you, but if we're paying staff to make decisions, then we should value the decisions that they're coming to us with. And on the note of expense, I mean, that hasn't been the biggest topic, but I will agree with some of my fellow board members who have talked about that. I mean, if we just look at the amount we spent on books and the $30,000 on all the things, all the work that was done on the banned books, or the $30,000, this is $45,000, that's it. So, and the last thing I'll say is, I mean, just to kind of go back to what I said previously, which is I truly believe that when we give our students valuable tools to understand their emotions and to be able to foster a sense of well-being and belonging, that's really powerful. We actually had our student representatives this evening in open session, and they talked about a sense of community and a sense of belonging and some of the work that's being done or that was done and how that made them feel. And so I think this is the same type of work. They're saying that they want it. So if we're wanting to listen to the students and what they're needing and what they're wanting, they sat there and told us that. So that's all.
Dr. Johnson.
I'm going to ask that we vote to spend $8 on my 2 children.
Vice President, Board Member Eslick.
I'm really trying to figure out how to respond to the diatribe that just happened. It's not about the money. As I said when I spoke earlier, it's not about the money. We're asking our teachers to buy into a system that has no evidence that it works. And I'm just gonna go back to that. That was the entire genesis of all of my questions. And it's not about whether I support a program that would help our students understand their emotions and work with other people. That is a very common sense thing. We see it all the time right now in the conflicts in the schools. But if this whole interaction, I was very professional. I wasn't attacking anyone. I cannot say the same for what just happened on the dais, which is honestly, in the 2 years we've worked together, the first time something like that's ever happened. So that's pretty disappointing. But a couple of things have been implied about my disagreement with the efficacy of this program. It's that I don't trust teachers, I don't trust our staff, and that just me asking questions about something being effective is somehow divisive. So I just disagree with all of that. I think you can ask questions. I think you can challenge whether something is effective based off of a study, and none of those things should be considered anything more than what they are. Trying to prove that what we're asking our staff to do is going to have an impact on our students. That is all I was getting at. And none of that has been demonstrated to me from the information that has been provided or the dialogue that we've had. That's all I have to say.
Vice Board Member Garrett.
Thank you. I don't know if it was my words that kind of triggered all this. I mean, I did say about investing in this program. I didn't mean money-wise. I meant signing on the dotted line on a contract that we don't have all the information that we're asking for. I mean, that's what we're supposed to be here. We're supposed to be here to ask the questions, to ask the hard questions, and to be able to say yay or nay. That's going to impact all of our kids' lives. Now, I do support this. I support this sign here. That's why I ran. I support social emotional learning, but are we getting the right program? That is my only holding back, if you will. That once a contract is in place, we have it for a period of time, and if it's not really effective, then what? Well, we've already invested 3 years or however long the contract is, so, you know, we're just gonna keep right on chugging along, and that's where my headspace is. I wanna be 100% sure, have all the information before we sign that contract. And it really didn't have anything to do with the money. Maybe that's where this came from. I don't know, but I was talking about signing a contract and investing in the time for our teachers to be able to use this program for every student. That's where my headspace was when I said invest. I wasn't talking about the money, but that is a factor as well, but that wasn't the top of the list. So I think before I came on board, there were other programs that were invested in that I don't think were highly effective. I'm just going to be honest. There are our constituents that have voiced different opinions, and I think we are obligated to take everything into consideration and maybe come into a middle ground somewhere. I'm willing to do that. I'm always willing to listen to both sides and try and meet people in the middle. But it just seems like we're relying on data that we just don't have enough information for. And that's where you don't have me 100% on board for this particular program at this time. Now, if we had been given more information, I could have been sold on it. And so that's where I'm struggling right now. And that was all I had to say.
Before I call on Vice President Foley, Board Member Garrett, you mentioned in your comments just now that there was other things that have not proven basically a waste of money. Would that be a fair?
I don't want to say a waste of money. I want to say that maybe it hasn't been as effective.
Okay. Can you share with the board those particular contracts that have not been effective?
Well, I'm just talking about the diversity because that's coming up here pretty soon, so I might as well just put that one out there.
Okay.
That one was voted on before I got here.
Is that the only one that you would say that has not
That's
been
probably
effective?
the only one that I'm aware of, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Vice President Foley.
I agree that we need an appropriate SEL curriculum, but when I see a vendor that cites a faulty study as their main selling point, it gives me concern. In the Finance Committee discussion yesterday, the staff proposing the contract admitted that they hadn't even fully gotten through the study yet. So why should I expect that all of the vetting committee had read the study if our staff didn't? I do think we need an SEL curriculum, but I just don't know that this is the one. I know COVID was a big disruptor, and I don't fault them for having an incomplete study, but if I would have heard today that Kearney has been using it, and if either one of you two would have said that they've seen results, I would have supported it.
Okay, I believe everyone has had a chance to give their final remarks, so I'm going to give mine, and then we'll vote. Let me publicly apologize to Board Member Eslick. Calling you out from this dais was inappropriate, and I should not have done it. It was very reactive, and I'm publicly apologizing, and in due time, you can accept it, okay? Let me also acknowledge that I stand by everything that I said. And I appreciate the acknowledgement that I have not had a quarrel with any of my colleagues for the last 2 years. And I'm gonna go on the record and say I've not had one in the last 3 years. And I respect my colleagues and I respect the work that we do and the sacrifices that we make. But I'm also gonna say this as my final comment. If we're going to ask questions, then let's ask questions about everything. And what I'm saying is, I'm seeing the pattern that we pick and choose when we want to ask questions, especially when we're really in the weeds of things. And so that's the point that I was highlighting, is that if we're going to ask questions, then we need to truly ask questions about everything, and not just on certain issues that rally our community up, or because we're in the middle of an election, that then these become hot topics that now we want to make points on. And I would not be the leader that I am if I did not make those comments. And so, Ms. Linda, roll call vote, please.
Vice President Foley?
No.
Board Member Miller?
Aye.
Board Member Johnson?
Aye.
Board Member Garrett?
No.
Board Member Murdoch?
Aye.
Board Member Eslick?
No.
President Sparks?
Aye. Motion passes 4-3. Thank you. Our next item is Dignity Consultant contract renewal for 2024-25. That's 7.02.
Good evening. I wasn't close enough. Happy to be here for year 3 for this contract. Just ready to keep doing the good work. We, have been talking a lot about data and statistics and quantitative and all that stuff. And we talked a little bit about qualitative, and I had the opportunity to facilitate the parent D-team session. And we had some newbies join, but we've also had some members that have been on the team for 3 years. And just our conversation in our last meeting, I don't know that we always get to hear those words, and it was just framed around this meeting 3 years ago. We couldn't even be in the same room without a police presence standing outside of our meeting with yelling and screaming, right? And here we are today, 3 years later, and we can sit in a room and have conversations and share our different perspectives, and we're okay. That's what this work is all about, right? And we will continue to do that work. If this contract doesn't pass, we're gonna keep going, because we now have created a safe space where not only our kids can exist, but our parents can too. And they don't have to agree on topics, but they know that they can come to that space and let their hair down and talk about what's most important to them, and that's their kids. And in that space, I get to be a parent too. And so I get to talk about my kids, because that's what we're here for, right? So while you're gonna see that our student and staff data has moved some, and we'll continue to work on that quantitatively, we cannot forget the qualitative data that is collected in our daily experiences with those we get to serve. So I will open up for questions. I will open the floor up for questions if there are any.
Okay, the board, any questions? Oh, yes, sorry. Thanks, Board Member Murdoch. Motion, please.
I move that the board approves the Dignity Consulting proposal as provided for the 2024-2025 school year to complete the training with our designated groups from the proposal.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Board Member Eslick?
I'm just going to make a quick statement because Shelley and I have gone back and forth for the last 3 years talking about this very topic, even before I was a board member. And she knows I have big beef with Cobb and Crown Apple for a variety of reasons in the way that they approach this topic. And it really is not the concept of respecting someone's dignity. It's honestly the way that those individuals have gone about speaking of belonging as the cornerstone and the only thing that matters before someone can begin to learn. So just theoretically and philosophically, I just disagree. I think it's a circle of belonging, and I think it's a partnership, and that's how you create belonging. It's a partnership in society where we accept somebody, they prove they're part of the team, and we all work together, and it's more of a circle instead of this hierarchical thing that their consultancy has developed. So one of the questions that I had asked about was whether we're ready to move forward without Dignity Consulting. Mm-hmm. Because there's nothing in me that would want to say cancel the program. I've been part of your DT meetings when I was a parent, and I've been to your DT meetings as a school board member, and I've seen the great conversations that have come out of all of that work. I just don't want to pay these people that I vehemently disagree with their philosophy. That's really what it's about. It's just this particular consultant and the way that they view people and education, and some of the things that they have said about education being what's the word they use? Apartheid, and how they describe academic tracking. So it's really the book and the platform, more so the concept of implementing belonging in our schools. Because to your credit, I think you've done a great job, and I've enjoyed a lot of the sessions that I've been part of. So it's a twofold. I know I'm not trying to call your baby ugly by criticizing Cobb and Crown Apple, but I really don't like them. But I love your program and what you've done with it. So it's kind of a twofold compliment sandwich. The other comment that I really wanted to address was the comment made, because we're still on this topic of these topics that Board Member Sparks viewed as being something that we spend a lot of time on. I don't know if Kyle Gorell is here, but if he were, he could attest to how much I dig into a lot of his stuff and how much I have dug into a lot of his things in the last 2 years. The last board meeting, we had pre-K. I asked a lot of questions about pre-K because I wanted to make sure that if we were going to try and invest in that and give up some of the things that we have as priorities that I was concerned about, that there was a valid reason and a good plan. So I ask a lot of questions, and I kind of resent this concept that I only ask questions about political topics, because that's frankly garbage for anybody who's actually sat in one of my finance committee meetings with Dr. Shelton and Kyle Gorell, or a board meeting for that matter. So I dispute that. I 100% disagree. I ask a lot of questions about a variety of topics because I care, and it's not because I'm trying to make a political statement. This topic could have been pushed off another month until after the election. I don't control the agenda. The two people over there do. So I didn't put it on the agenda to make it politicized. I just had questions about it and comments, and I'm gonna vote how I vote. I haven't supported Dignity Consulting for the last one time that I was able to vote for it, and I'm not gonna start now because my issues are still present. So again, compliment sandwich. I love what you've done, but I don't like Cobb and Crown Apple, so I appreciate you though.
I think it's important for us to all acknowledge that it's not my baby, right? Like, I got 2 babies and they're at home right now. It's our baby, right? And I think that's the thing with this type of work, is it gets stuck in one spot. And I think it's important for us to remember it takes all of us to lift this work up. And while I know you don't agree with them, and you and I have had this conversation, what I do is what they say in that book in our sessions. And so while you may not agree with the words, it comes to life in the work that we get to do together and with students and staff and parents. So I just wanted to say that it's not my baby, and she's a cute baby.
But you do it so well without all of that, though. So
I use that. You just don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't hear apartheid in education come out of your mouth. So fair point.
So I think the thing is that it's all of our work. If the contract doesn't get approved, the work will continue. What this allows me to do, and I am one person, right? And this work is one slice of my pie. And if you ever want to come and spend the day with me and see what that looks like, I can't carry the load by myself. And the comment when you said my baby, I think there is an expectation for me to carry this work on my own. And we've built some capacity, and our defacilitators are amazing. But it's also to remember that they are teachers, they are administrative assistants, they are nutrition services coordinators. They got jobs too, right? And so right now, as long as it's just me, I need help, right? And I think that's just important to remember, because I just don't serve 17,000 kids. I just don't serve 3,000 staff members. We serve the whole community, right? So that, as long as it's just me, we may be up here having this conversation every year, right? But I appreciate your comments.
Board Member Murdoch.
My only question is adding the facilitators, how many are we adding? Because did I see that number? Did I miss it?
No,
Okay.
you don't have that number. So last year was the first year of the facilitators. We had 55. This year we were up to 82.
Okay.
Right? And so this year we had every building plus nutrition services, plus transportation, plus SLC has 4 trainers. And so we've sort of spanned out, and I had an amazing conversation with Kyle Gurrell today, and we're gonna beef it up for facilities. And it is so much fun when Kyle Gurrell flags me down in D-team training and says, I need you to bring this to us now. And I said, Kyle, I need you to give up 3 hours in the summer with your staff. And you know what Kyle says? We can make that work. What else do you need? Right? That's the commitment to this work. And when I say it's not my baby, but our baby, that's proof, right?
Okay.
No one person does this alone.
So the goal obviously then is to keep branching, right?
It's to keep building facilitators, but that's one layer, right? And now we have this layer where people are talking well, this situation happened. What do I do here? I need a think partner. We got to build that out too, because right now people call Shelly, or they call Heather, or they call Chad, or whatever they do. We gotta equip our people to be able to have somebody to have that dialogue with, so that we can make better decisions for ourselves and for kids and for each other.
That works. Thanks, appreciate it.
Board Member Garrett.
Okay, like I said before, the program was implemented before I even got here, and I understood that there were questions with this Crown and Apple dignity program. And it's not that I don't agree. Yes, I think that most people up here do want our children to learn how to respect others that are different, and treat them with kindness. And honestly, before Crown and Apple was even around in this dignity program, these are things that I learned. I learned as a child where maybe my parents, maybe religion, maybe society, and I know things are different now. And I know that we have to focus on getting our kids to respect one another. And it really saddens my heart when I keep seeing the fights going on in our schools. It hurts my heart when another student tells my child that white people, there's no discrimination against white people. And why it hurts my heart is because I'm Mexican and my child looks white. And people look at him and judge him because he's white. He looks white. And so personally, that affects me. And I don't want to bring that in here. But if our kids aren't being taught how to respect one another, I can't be 100% aboard on this program. Now, there are other programs out there that might not be so divisive. And that's where my frustration lies, is did we not research and look far and wide for the best program? And that's where I have this pause with this particular program where there wasn't enough information. Because, like I said, if our kids are discussing these things at school and saying that, you know, you can't discriminate against a white person. And I'm sorry, when I was running for school board, being confronted with people that didn't like me for whatever reason, didn't agree because of my ideals, tried to talk about white privilege. Now, honestly, in our meetings that we've had as a community, I thought it was great. I don't know what's going behind closed doors when my kids leave and they go to school and what's being discussed and what they're learning. I don't know that until they tell me. And then where am I supposed to go when I hear these things, you know, that, you know, it's affecting my child? You know, that they have to be careful in what they say, and what they say can be turned and manipulated, and then they're targeted for being a racist. That's something that I'm like wondering, where is this coming from? Are we lifting up other people within the community and lifting up other students within the community above others? I don't know. But I have to wonder, why is it that we're putting so much focus on certain people? Yes, I want to focus on all of them. I want all of them to be treated with dignity and kindness. And if we could have a program that amplifies that, I would be 100% on board. Because it hurts me when I see all the divisiveness in our schools. But I see it on social media, so it makes me wonder, where is this coming from? Is it coming from the homes, or is it coming from school, or is it coming from social media? There's a lot there. But I want something that they can be proud of when they go to school, and they can be included in the learning. Because honestly, my kids don't take those panorama surveys. I don't trust them. I honestly don't. And I would rather be the person responsible for my child and how they behave in school. And if they're not behaving, they're going to be held accountable. I am not a parent who makes excuses for my child. And I will discipline them and talk to them at home about their behavior in school. And I think it should be every parent's obligation for that. I honestly don't even know. I know there are some students that are in homes that don't look like mine. I get that, and those kids probably need that support. And I think all the students should be respectful of those students as well. And I just want a program that establishes that, because I don't feel like this particular program has. That was all.
Board Member Miller.
Kind of lost my train of thought for a second. I was just going to say that I've talked to, in my school visits and just in my time in the community, I've talked to staff and teachers who really appreciate this work and have benefited from this work and want to see this work continue. So I just want to say thank you for all of your work, and I recognize that you're one person and you can't do this by yourself. But I just want to say thank you, because it is making a difference. Even again, in the things that our student representatives were talking about tonight, my understanding is the things that they were talking about were coming directly from the D-team work. The sense of belonging, the sense of community that's being created in their classrooms. And so I do know that it's making a difference, and I just want to say thank you.
Okay, my only comments are, thank you for doing the work. Thank you and everyone that has been doing this work. We got former board member, Vice President Kim Fritchie in the audience, and she knows this journey. And to know where we started and to know where we are today, I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied. Not happy, because we got more work to do. But I'm satisfied with seeing the progress. And I'm satisfied with seeing the dialogue that is happening from this dais of us continuing the work. We have a motion, we have a second. Roll call vote, Ms. Linda.
Board Member Garrett,
No.
Board Member Johnson,
Yes.
Board Member Miller,
Yes.
Vice President Foley,
No.
Board Member Eslick,
No.
Board Member Murdoch,
Aye.
President Sparks.
Aye. Motion passes 4-3. We'll move to our next item. 7.03, suspension of BOE policy, GCBDA, and the guidelines for PDOs used letter I for school year 24-25. And we have Dr. Carlson joining us.
Good evening, and I'll give a brief intro to this. You know, in the Team Lee Summit survey, emergency days has been a persistent topic for years, to be candid, and that was also identified by Team Lee Summit as a staff well-being topic. So what this item would do is it's a recommendation to suspend board policy GCBDA and GDBDA. Under the heading in that policy, guidelines for PTO use, letter I. That's the section that is referred to as the emergency day section of the policy. So it would suspend the practice of having emergency days for PTO and PTO usage for a 1-year pilot to collect data and evaluate the impact on school operations.
Okay, thank you for giving us that synopsis. Is there a motion for this item?
I move to suspend board policy GCBDA, GCBDA, GCBD. Is it in
The second one's a GD.
Oh my gosh, I can't remember.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, it's been hours now. I move to suspend board policy GCBDA, GDBDA guidelines for PTO use, letter I, for the 2024-25 school year.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any open for discussion? Board Member Murdoch.
Thank you, President Sparks. Dr. Carlson, I sent you obviously some questions regarding this one. First off, for board clarification, I'm in full support of this here. So, but I am curious about two things surrounding this. Number one is if we suspend the policy specific to that letter, does there need to be something at the building level to indicate how they are going to essentially do a lottery if you have so many people who end up applying well in advance for the day before Christmas break, for example? Like, I'm concerned, like, I don't want it to be essentially subjective on how we're going to determine if you have a lot of staff who end up applying for one particular day. Are we going to do that after the fact? Is there something that we're thinking about in regards to that?
Good question. This was actually discussed at Team Lee Summit. So we'll be following the rest of the board policy. So keep in mind, we're just suspending that one letter I. The rest of the guidelines for PTO and PTO use will still be in effect, and part of that is supervisors making decisions about absences. There will not be a lottery. It will be based on essentially first come, first serve. When the days are requested, the supervisor will then evaluate and approve those days. And then it's been a practice, and on non-emergency days, building leaders have been able to, or department directors, if it's in transportation or nutrition, RNs sometimes have to do this, where they will identify a day as an emergency day because of the number of absences they have coming up. Will happen sometimes on Fridays in the spring, on a random Friday. So beyond a holiday or a PD day or the last week of school. So that would be the standard. So an example would be a principal might say, we're up to 15, 18, 20% of our teaching staff being gone, at this point, I need to make it an emergency day and we won't be able to approve more.
Okay, which brings up kind of the second part of this question for me, and just something I just want the board to be thinking about, even as we collect data on this piece, right? Is we have drastically different sized schools, right? And so in the questions that we submitted and then the answers that were provided, obviously, one of the things we would not be able to sustain would be, for example, in some of our smaller elementary schools, losing, for example, music and art and all that, all essentially on the same day. Whereas, or even to the example, I think if it was you answering, that gave the example of multiple ones within a grade level, right? And so, but then all of a sudden you have Lee Summit Elementary, who has one teacher, right? And while I understand that, you know, they are gone in other times and stuff like that, I do wonder, is there going to be an unfair burden on the teachers in these smaller departments, smaller schools, things like that, who might not actually be able to grab these days before or after holidays and things like that because they are even more indispensable? That's a terrible word. I need to stop that and come back on that one. That was awful. Is it a little more unfair to those teachers because people who have 4 gym teachers at the high school, for example, one of them could miss that day, but a gym teacher in an elementary school can't all of a sudden? Does that make sense where I'm going? Like, I'm concerned that some teachers are going to be able to take advantage of it, which I love. I think that's great. I think there's going to be other teachers who all of a sudden aren't going to be able to. And how do we navigate that?
Yeah, and I think I understand the question, but redirect me if I don't answer it. So I don't think a PE teacher at a smaller elementary school or one of our elementary schools is going to be the issue. The issue is when, 1 in 5 of your teaching staff is gone. So, I think the example as a middle school principal, the example I always use from a middle school perspective is if an entire team of teachers was going to be gone that day, then a team of students is going to go through their day with 4 of their 7 teachers being subs. And that can present challenges for kids with the change in expectations and sometimes the testing that happens with subs. So in a situation like that, I as a middle school principal might ask a teacher, if they're the 4th teacher that's going to request to be gone on a team and they're wanting to go on a shopping trip or something like that, hey, can you reschedule that another day so we don't have 4 subs gone that day? But I will say that if on that day they get sick that morning, they need to be gone. They need to stay home and get well. So that's the balance, and I trust our leaders. I think what's going to be challenging with this is it is a change because, as I'd mentioned in the questions from the board, HR has managed these emergency days and approval and denial of those days. And it will be different for different buildings based on who's gone, on what days, and supervisors will have to make those determinations for their school and what's right for their school.
I appreciate that very much, right? I mean, as I said, I support this. The only other comment I would like to make, President Sparks, is that I do wish in this recommendation that we had left the first week of school because I think that that's a pretty critical component to meeting the students, right? As best we can, we always want as much of our staff to be there in the first week. Now, that being said, I don't anticipate, right, staff just like in droves just skipping the first week. So like I'm not, right? I mean, and so that's one of the things that, and so I don't worry necessarily about that, but I wish we had left that, just for peace of mind for even parents and stuff like that. That's all.
And to follow that up, we had more absences today than we had any requests in any of the first days of school.
Well, and the team lost 4-1.
I didn't say it was that reason. But
So just to kind of touch on Board Member Murdoch, if I know that this is a 1-year pilot, if we see prior to the completion of 1 year that we're hurting our students, what do we do?
I can answer that for you. So I can remember our 2021, we decided to make a certain number of days to forgive, and then we came back 2 months later and said, yeah, that's not working, and we changed it. So board policies can change anytime you guys want to vote on one.
That is what I would like the board to always consider. Are there any other questions? Thank you, Dr. Carlson. Oh, Board Member Miller?
Just on that point, so will we get like an update of some sort of how we think the pilot is going? Is that the plan?
Yeah, our plan is to collect data. The data we're talking about collecting right now is absentee rates for those days, how many staff we have gone, compared to, just like Dr. Buck mentioned today. You know, we were looking this week, and we're looking at tomorrow before spring break what our absence rates are. But also part of it is our fill rates. And I'll say Kelly Services this year, our fill rates have been, I can't remember them ever being as good as they are right now. I just can't. So we are confident. I checked with Kelly Services again today on this specific topic that next year, if things continue the way they are, I think we'll have enough. We believe we'll have enough subs to cover absences as long as they don't spike beyond the 200, 250 range that we've topped out at before.
Thank you.
And to the board, I just leaned over to Dr. Buck and just said if we run into issues, he needs to bring this back to the Board of Education. Okay, if there's, we already got the motion on this one, and we got the second. A roll call vote, please.
Board Member Johnson?
Aye.
Board Member Murdoch?
Aye.
Board Member Eslick?
Aye.
Board Member Miller?
Aye.
Board Member Garrett?
Aye.
Vice President Foley?
Aye.
President Sparks?
Aye. Unanimous vote, motion passes. Our next one is 7.04, our compensation package for 24-25 school year. Dr. Carlson?
As you all know, we discussed this at work session, so I won't restate the things I shared earlier. I do want to take a moment. I noticed we have some Team Lee Summit members in the room, and I want to thank them for giving their Thursday night to be here. And just remind folks that this is a collaborative process. We have 5 teachers, 5 support and professional staff members. We have 5 administrators on Team Lee Summit working to those goals to work towards, through our norms, to create a recommendation for our Board of Education to consensus, which we were able to achieve today for the package recommendation that is here, that I also touched on and gave a brief summary of during work session. So happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, can I have a motion, please?
I move to recommend approval of the compensation package for 2024 through 2025 as submitted.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Board Member Murdoch?
Just one thing I just wanted to highlight, just like we did in the work session. I did appreciate the answers specific to, as we talk about how we move through each one of the schedules, but also then how we determine what we're doing for clubs and stuff like that. That's the only thing, since there's so much in that particular document. And just like I said, also in the work session, I sincerely hope that in the coming years we will continue to beef up as much as we possibly can the amount that we put towards the insurance packages to make for the full compensation package for staff, to make that attainable, especially for those who need to take family coverage, right? I mean, that's where it really starts to hit home. So, thanks.
Absolutely. We have a motion, we have a second. If there's no more comments, then roll call vote, please, Ms. Linda.
Board Member Miller?
Aye.
Board Member Garrett?
Aye.
Board Member Murdoch?
Aye.
Board Member Eslick?
Aye.
Vice President Foley?
Aye.
Board Member Johnson?
Aye.
President Sparks?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We're going to move to our next item, 7.05, renewal of administrative staff for the 24-25 school year.
Before we start, I want to make sure you look at the list, and if you have any relatives, we have to pull them off because you have to abstain, because you could lose your board seat for voting for a relative, so make sure you do so. If you need a definition of how far that is, we have Joe over there who will have it memorized. 2, if you want to talk about anybody individually, we have to put that into closed session. So please look at that list to make sure you're not related to anybody. Joe, do you want to come up and tell them how close are related? I don't.
Miss Linda actually sent everyone.
Oh, she already did.
She did.
So you already had the definition sent to you?
Yes, we're good and ready to go. And hopefully you looked at that list. If not, you're in trouble. All right, so do I have a motion?
I move to renew the administrative staff for the 2024-2025 school year.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, Ms. Linda, roll call, please.
Board Member Murdoch,
Aye.
Board Member Eslick,
Aye.
Vice President Foley,
Aye.
Board Member Miller,
Aye.
Board Member Johnson,
Aye.
Board Member Garrett,
Aye.
President Sparks.
Aye. Okay, motion passes unanimously. We go on to our next item, 7.06, renewal of the probationary teachers for the 24-25 school year.
Ditto on the relative part.
Do I have a motion?
I move to renew the probationary teachers as submitted for the 2024-2025 school year.
Do I have a
Second.
All right, we have our motion or a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, roll call, Ms. Linda.
Board Member Eslick,
Aye.
Vice President Foley,
Aye.
Board Member Garrett,
Aye.
Board Member Murdoch,
Aye.
Board Member Johnson,
Aye.
Board Member Miller, President Sparks.
Aye, motion passes unanimously. We are on to our last item for items for decision, our comprehensive school improvement plan. Dr. Christy Berger is going to be presenting.
Good evening. We have moved forward actually two pieces of the CSIP, one that is in the item of decision that we're looking at right now, and another piece that shows up later in the item of information. In the item of decision is the results of this first, almost into second semester's work of a team of 50 people who utilized community feedback and worked very well collaboratively to move forward the part of the CSIP for 24 to 27. That is our strategic goals and objectives. That's the portion that will be board approved for the purpose of solidifying it moving forward. It is partnered with an item of information later that was also developed by that same team with the intention of being 3 years of proposed strategies. And the reason that's an item of information is for the agility. We don't necessarily always know, we want to be a little bit agile with a strategy between year 1 and year 2 without necessarily having to bring each strategy back for board approval, but definitely want to keep the board informed.
Appreciate that. Do I have a motion?
I lost it, sorry. I move to approve the 2024 through 2027 Comprehensive School Improvement Plan strategic goals and objectives as presented.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, Board Member Eslick and then Board Member Murdoch.
So my question's about, well, now I lost it. The document that was in front of me. Where are we gonna, there's some metrics in here, but there's not a lot of beginning and end point as far as like benchmarks. Like we're starting here and we wanna improve this much. Is that going to be down the road when we get a more like full, like the document that we have currently with CSIP, has all the information kind of broken out, like page by page, and there's some metrics in there where there's a benchmark and then a goal. So some of these are they all should be measurable, of course, but a couple of them have some sort of percentage, like for example, 50% of students in each subgroup, including the all students group, will reach their identified NWEA fall to spring growth goal. So some of the other ones, like, under strategic goal number 2, there's some questions in there that have to do with the belonging survey. And do we have benchmarks that we're going to plug in there to say we want to improve this much for any of these?
So really that was a very purposeful shift of practice, really trying to talk about moving forward to the things that we see as benefits in terms of that versus what might end up feeling like arbitrary selection of percentages to show a certain amount of increase. Do we have baseline data that we can speak to? Absolutely. I think where you most likely will see that start to finish measurement like you might typically have seen in our previous CSIPs, we would call those SMART goals, where there is that very measurable, we want to increase 2% by, would be when we report out on the strategies work. Some of those strategies, like how many market value assets we have, what our graduation rate, how many CCR assessments we have, that's really where we would be bringing those quarterly or at whatever rate the board wants updates on that strategy work with the start to finish. But with the document that we wanted to be board approved, what we didn't want to do is either set a goal that felt arbitrary because we picked an increment, but really also wanted it to be more about holistically what do we see as the benefit. We see incremental growth as the benefit, so we tried to articulate that through ongoing growth each year. If we get to the point where a board says, you know what, you only grew 2% last year, like chop chop, I want to see 5% next year. It also gives the board the ability to give us that nudge for higher expectation as well.
Okay, it makes sense. I'm just trying to figure out how we would measure whether something was successful or not without some sort of begin and end point. But I hear what you're saying. I'm just trying to figure out what that looks like practically applied to us kind of receiving information and deciding, okay, well, what's the next step if we didn't decide what was success to begin with? Does that make sense?
Can I try to weigh in?
Well,
This-
and being on the committee, one of the things that we discussed, just as Board Member Eslick, as a part of this whole formulation of the plan, was we have board priorities that we had already put that we wanted to make sure that we stayed in alignment with, which already had a lot of the data points that we would be using as we can look to try to succeed. We just had the communications audit, which is why we were able to put a more tangible number, right, as a part of the engagement that we want to be able to see. And so we had the different data pieces that all came together, whether it was the survey responses that we had, that we all had divvied up and partnered in and looked through to try to figure out some of these. We had the board priorities and the data associated with those, and then we had a couple of the other pieces surrounding communication and the belonging piece that then we were able to pull together. So I do think that there is data behind it. While you may not see it necessarily right here on this particular page, it already is essentially one broad, huge thing that we wanted to stay in alignment with. Like, we were really, really cognizant to not push the CSIP away from the board priorities. Like, that became really, really important, right? So that we're not chasing different things all at the same time. So I do think you'll be able to see some of that success that you're looking for.
Thank you, Ryan. Well said.
Yes, that's all I was basically going to say, is all three of those should align. And that's, and as the CSIP continues to evolve, 3-4 years out, then we should make sure that they still align with our board priorities. And as the board priorities shift, then we should then be shifting our CSIP.
Can I say one more thing?
Go ahead.
So the only thing that I think would be, not the only thing, but a thing that I think would be helpful, I look to strategic goal number 4. Because when we're kind of talking about the things that we think our kids need to be successful, I'm assuming we do some sort of feedback loop with the employers that we work with, that our students go out to say, this student was great in all of these areas, but I think they could use some work in this area. Not specifically for that student, but really just to understand, are we hitting the mark when we're saying we're preparing our students to go out into the workforce? Are there skills that they're missing that maybe here in the 4 walls of the school building that we think we're doing a good job of delivering students that are going to succeed out in the workforce? Are we? And maybe some sort of, survey back to our community partners. I know we have some feedback opportunities with like Business Roundtable, and we have Workforce Alliance. I don't know that those groups are necessarily that function. And I don't know what that looks like, but to me, to really understand whether those internships and apprenticeships are both beneficial for the student and also for the community and for what we're trying to do, which is to ready our students to go out into the community and work. I personally think that would be valuable information to have, and I don't know, probably for us as a district to be able to know whether we need to correct course or add resources to help build skills that are missing for our students. So, thanks.
Board Member Eslick, I think we can certainly build that in, because I think that's what we take the admin team out often to, and we're going to do it again this summer, to businesses. We always hear that they see in applicants right now the best skills they've seen, but they don't get along with each other as well. So we hear that, but yes, so if you talk to Ultrax, they've had over 60 in the last 6 years. They'll have valuable information about what are they seeing, what we could do programmatically, and they already do that and directly with the instructors, but we probably don't capture it at us because they're working right with the engineering instructors to go to Ultrax, right? So we probably could capture that, and that's a good idea.
Well, and I think this exchange here really speaks to the format of what's board approved and what becomes strategies, because when we have conversations like this, great idea, let's get it tacked onto the strategies, right? And it can be tacked onto a strategy in a very agile way when something comes up like that. And in the same way, if we find out something's not working, we can nudge a strategy out and replace it. So no reason that can't be added to, not by our item of information, but there's no reason that can't be added to the strategies long range.
Okay, is there anyone else have any questions? Like to weigh in? All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Roll call vote, please, Ms. Linda. Thank you, Dr. Burke.
Board Member Foley, Vice President Foley.
Aye.
Board Member Miller,
Aye.
Board Member Garrett,
Aye.
Board Member Johnson,
Aye.
Board Member Murdoch,
Aye.
Board Member Eslick,
Aye.
President Sparks.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank everyone for all of those items. Items for information, presentation, health service program evaluation. Now, board, we need to be very nice. This is her first time presenting before us. We're going to grill you.
Thank you. All right. My name is Lauren Lee. I am the new Health Services Coordinator as of March 1st. I am excited and honored to be a part of LSR7. Personally, I grew up in Lee Summit. I graduated from Lee Summit North, and I currently have 2 children in the district, so I have a vested interest in our school district. Professionally, I worked as a pediatric nurse at the University of Kansas Hospital, and more recently, I worked as a pediatric nurse practitioner here in Lee Summit, and I'm excited to bring that experience and knowledge into this role and to help our health services staff. Thank you for the opportunity to present the program evaluation tonight. Okay, on this slide, you'll find our mission statement of the Health Services Department. Our primary goal is to promote an optimal level of health and wellness for all staff and students. Our staffing structure. So in 2022, the staffing structure was changed to include a full-time RN in every building. This change provides the opportunity for all students and staff to have access to a professional nurse every single day. And this change also aligns with the recommendations of the position statement of the National Association of School Nurses. The staffing numbers here include our float pool, as well as 2 1-to-1 LPNs or licensed practical nurses. The recent approval of an internal float pool for our staffing model has allowed for consistent coverage in the case of absences in the health room. Continuing, in addition to their full-time building, we have RNs who provide emergency coverage for Summit Ridge Academy, Miller Park Center, Summit Technology Academy, and Hilltop. And in the future, we'll be adding a full-time RN for the new pre-K program next year. Okay, let's jump to some of our staffing structure, from our staffing structure to a few slides on department statistics. Fully acknowledge that this slide is really busy, so I'd like to highlight a few key points. Using the 21 to 22 school year as a baseline, you can see that the number of students being sent back to class from the health room has gone up every year, which means, which results in more instructional time for our students. This year, the health services staff performed over 17,000 treatments or procedures and over 10,000 health screenings. Lastly, they've provided over 2,000 visits to staff. I think it's important to point this out to note that we care for staff and patrons in any district facility in addition to the students. In regard to student health concerns, I'd like to bring your attention to the increase in both type 1 diabetics and mental health diagnoses. I'll use this information to focus health services professional development days to better prepare our health services staff with training to be able to respond to the needs of the increase in these diagnoses. So this slide further breaks down mental health concerns. These numbers are reported by parents. I think that's important to note. most likely these numbers are much higher due to being underreported with mental health concerns. So health screenings. The reality is that the school nurse may be the only opportunity a student has to have access to a healthcare professional. These screenings play an important part in identifying health concerns that can directly have an impact on a student's ability to learn. Vision and hearing are two of the screenings that health services provide, and you can see our screening numbers there. Okay, the next two slides highlight programs the district offers in partnership with outside organizations. Healthy Kids Screening Program is provided through the First Hand Foundation, which is sponsored by Cerner. And this year, 5 schools participated in this program. These are the screenings that they offered. Big Smiles is a mobile dental clinic, and this year we had 13 schools participate. They served 306 students and performed 161 restorative procedures at school. Again, this is a way we can help minimize hours lost of school time, getting them back into the classroom while getting these important health procedures as well. Okay, health services goals for 2024 to 2025. So kind of looking ahead to next year, here are the 3 goals that the department will focus on. We'll continue to increase professional development opportunities for health services staff. Number 2, we'll increase standardization across all district health rooms. And then number 3, we'll work to improve the new hire onboarding and orientation as a way to increase staff retention. And since I am so new, I will be taking this next year to really build relationships with my health services staff and then really take a deep dive to have a better understanding of how the health rooms are currently operating and then in order to assess the areas where we need to improve. I'd like to end on a celebratory note with a few recent staff accomplishments. We have, the number's actually 7. I got notified today that one of our nurses recently passed a certification exam. So we have 7 nationally certified school nurses. Molly Boyd, an RN at Mason Elementary, was the honorable mention recipient of the Missouri Association of School Nurses Outstanding Service of School Nurse Award for this year, and she'll be recognized in April in St. Louis at the Missouri Association of School Nurses Conference. Deb Jenkins, our RN at Summit Lakes Middle School, received this award last year. And then I think it's important to note that Rebecca Litton, our RN at Richardson Elementary, is currently serving as the president of the Greater Kansas City Association of School Nurses. Okay. Thank you for allowing me to present tonight. And again, I'm excited and honored to join the team here and to contribute to health services. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. We have Board Member Eslick and then Vice President Foley.
Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you.
I'm not going to grill you, as was implied. I just have some questions. So I was curious about, I don't know what slide number this is, but the one that's labeled health concerns and the one that's labeled mental health concerns. The line there that says mental health diagnoses and those numbers, how do those relate to the chart below it, mental health concerns? Are those numbers supposed to match those totals, or what's the difference?
I'm trying to just understand which slide.
So that one.
Okay.
Sorry, that says mental health diagnosis, 6,400, 4,100 students, 7,700 students. And then if you go to the next slide, all of those. So are those numbers included in that previous number for the same year?
And correct me, Shelley, if I'm wrong, but I'll try to explain from the best of my understanding of how this data is derived and how we pulled it. So under the medical diagnoses here, it says mental health diagnoses. It says this represents the conditions reported, not a number of students, because we have multiple students that could have multiple mental health diagnoses. So it's not really per student, it's per diagnosis.
So I guess my question more is the diagnosis, are the concerns enveloped in the diagnosis number? Does that make sense?
And I'll just, to see if this helps clarify, so the mental health concerns that are broken down, those are parent reported.
But not necessarily diagnosis, but it could be? So it could be included. So what I was trying to understand is, do we have 15,000 students? Because this year, 7,700 plus almost 6,000 students that are included in the mental health concerns, or is there some overlap in those two numbers? I was just trying to understand, because that's, first of all, that's a huge jump on the health concern side from 4,100 to 7,700. That's just a really alarming jump, and I was just trying to understand if it's even more than that. And so these are all, again, this is the 7,700 parents reporting those diagnoses to LSR7, right?
Yes.
So that, okay. Wow, okay. I don't really have a question about that. I'm just, it's alarming.
Well, and I think to her point, you can also see this jump because kids are coming in with multiple diagnoses, right? So it's not necessarily an increase in more kids, but you have kids that are coming in with multiple diagnoses. And we have several parents who will say, my kid has this, 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 and we may not actually have the medical diagnosis to go along with that, right? So you can see some discrepancy in those numbers.
Right, so you're not asking for proof, you're just saying, okay, check.
Yeah.
Yes.
Got it. All right, thanks.
Yeah, the health group doesn't require proof. If it affects an IEP and it's part of an IEP decision, it would come in that respect. But not everybody who has a mental health concern is going to get an IEP.
Correct.
There was someone else, but I took it off. Vice President Foley.
Me, thank you. So my question was actually on the same slide, and this is just out of my own curiosity as being a person with a severe food allergy. When I saw these numbers, I wondered, is this just people that have self-reported they have a food allergy, or is this the number of cases that have experienced anaphylaxis?
No, this is going to be a student that is reported to the health room as having a food allergy from a physician, and they would have an action plan to follow that, not necessarily that they've had an anaphylactic reaction resulting in those numbers.
Thank you.
Does that clarify?
Yep.
Okay.
Board Member Murdoch.
My two fast ones, and maybe Dr. Buck, you could answer the first one. Does CMSU help out at STAMIC in regards to this issue, like with?
So this issue, I'm sorry, I'm trying to
With
find the
staffing,
question.
with helping with like staff, if there's
So
a nurse or
we were
something
struggling
like
2 years, 3 years ago. Shelley came on, and we were really struggling with LPNs, and that's why
Yes.
we switched to the RN model. And we're doing really well now that we switched to RN model because it's just hard to find LPNs, and Shelley can add more detail to that. But I think we're in a better place than we were 2 years ago, if that's what you're asking.
Well,
I know what you're asking. Because we don't have anyone there, does UCM serve
Correct.
students that are there?
Yes. Yeah,
Yes,
sorry.
that's what he's asking.
Yes.
Ideally, it's R7, we serve. And so we have Serena Saxon, who is on call, and Megan Luster, who are on call at Lee Summit North. Lauren will also be on call to get over there.
So they can float over there.
They
if
float over there, and then we will shuffle people down there to them. Like, we have this very unique plan that if something happens, but that front office over there knows that if a concern comes up, that they call Lee Summit North or they call here.
Okay.
And then we work through that.
Perfect.
Yep,
Okay.
that's
All
how
right.
we support them, and we do the same at Hilltop. The same strategy. So.
Okay, excellent. And then my only other question, because during my tenure on the board, we had this happen, right, with needing the AED, right? Have we made good progress essentially in terms of AED training across, especially among our coaches and all that kind of stuff, in terms of making sure, one, availability, right, and two, that there's somebody there who knows how to use it?
I'll take this one.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry,
Yep.
I know
Nope.
that catches you off guard, and
Yep,
I apologize.
Nope. So I'm so glad you asked that question. Prior to this, to July, we currently do, but soon that will be resolved. We have 5 different types of AEDs that are floating around in our district, okay? So it was hard to do consistent training because they all work differently, right? And we had some schools, particularly our high schools, that had 3 different types of AEDs, right? And so you all passed a contract last July with Centus to get us transitioning to Zoll 3, which is the same AED that the fire department and the police department use. We will come back to you, Lauren and Nicole are working on that contract for the other 32 plus 2 extra, because what we found this year is that if one goes down, it is probably beneficial to have some sitting around somewhere so we don't have to borrow from a high school. So our plan is by next October, November, we should be completely Zoll. And then what we do is we've also purchased trainers that people can, that our RNs can take out and our trainers can take out, and they can actually train staff in the building, so they have separate trainers. But the beautiful thing about the Zolls is it is digital, and it walks you through what to do. So anyone can use them. We also found an inequity in the number of AEDs that were at various schools, specifically our high schools. So we had one high school that had 6, and we had another high school that had 3. And what we realized is that that was happening because of donations. Like, I want to donate an AED, or and so we got the one high school that had 3 up to 6. We have a set standard that every high school has 6, every middle school has 3, elementary schools have 1. And so what we've done is said that any AED that is going to be purchased needs to go through health services. We can no longer take AED donations, but you can gladly donate money that will be then funneled through for purchases, and then we may increase the standard at high schools. But they're at high schools on fields and different parts of the buildings and the PACs and the BAs. I mean, you go on, they're all over the place. So, but yes, we have worked really hard to try to standardize AEDs across the district.
I appreciate that very much. Thanks.
Is there any other questions? Okay, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
And welcome.
Absolutely, and welcome to the district. I got to meet you yesterday. Absolutely. All right, we now have our written reports, and do we want to go one by one, or just kind of look them at as group, and if there's something that you want to speak on, just highlight which one you want to speak on. Anyone would like to highlight the reports? All right, well, we appreciate all of the reports and all the work that everyone has went through to provide to the Board of Education. Our last item is public comments. Do we need to do we need to reread it? Okay, we don't need to reread it. If you'll just read the names, Board Member Eslick.
Our first speaker is Kim Fritchie.
Just hit it. So my dad always used to say to the TV, just hit it. Okay, well, good evening. Thank you all. I know you're probably tired. I get that. My name is Kim Fritchie, and tonight I am here representing the Lee Summit Retired School Personnel Group, which is the local group for the Missouri Retired Teachers Association. So I just have a little bit of an ask for you. What is the Missouri Retired Teachers Association and the Public School Personnel, MRTA? Well, MRTA is the only organization dedicated to the protection and the preservation of public education, pension, and benefits. MRTA is made up of Democrats, Republicans, Independents, MSTA members, MNEA members, and AFT members. MRTA includes teachers, administrators, staff, and friends of public education who are not employed in education. And we have 30,000 members strong. MRTA actively works to educate and inform its members, legislators, and the public on governmental issues which benefit public schools and public school retirees. Tonight, here's the ask. As retirees from the district and members of MRTA, we're asking that the board gift the first year of membership to MRTA to all future retirees. Currently, about 50 school districts in Missouri give this membership in appreciation of their retirees' dedication to their district. Local districts of MRTA already gift new retirees with the first year's membership to their unit. Membership is $44 per retiree. If a retiree joins in May, his or her year of membership is 19 months. So this is a bargain, 19 months for the price of 12. A memento such as a clock or a plaque is certainly appreciated, but retired teachers do not usually need more stuff. Instead, we hope you will agree that being part of an organization which lobbies the legislature to keep special interests from harming our peers and our PSRS retirement system is infinitely more valuable. In the long run, making sure that a pension check, which arrives each month and is on a livable amount, is the most valuable benefit that any retiree can receive. Just a few little facts. Our employees pay 14.1% of every paycheck to PRSRS or peers, and the school district pays a 14.1% match to that amount. Second, surrounding districts of us also pay for the retirees for the first year. In District 2 of MRTA, Belton, Blue Springs, Excelsior Springs, Grandview, Lawson, Oak Grove, and Pleasant Hill pay those memberships for the first year. Yes.
Your time is
Am I
up.
done? Oh, wait. Oh, I'm sorry. The last thing was just a thank you. Okay, we thank you.
Can you provide the board the information, please?
Sure,
Thank
I'll
you.
see if I can make some copies for you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, you didn't have the buzzer. No more buzzer? Okay, all right, thank you. You've always wanted to do that to me.
Next speaker is Rebecca Shipley.
Thanks for leaving it on, Kim. Good evening. My name is Rebecca Shipley, and I'm the Lee Summit MSTA president. March is School Board Appreciation Month, so I'm here this evening to say thank you to each and every one of you for your commitment and dedication to the students, staff, and families in our district. On behalf of LSMSTA, you have a certificate at your table as a small token of our appreciation for the work that you do. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Storm Dillenschneider.
I have to have a little piece of paper here, notes, so I don't get off target. I am a mother who knew the complete, utter, and total joy of raising 4 sons, and I have 4 grandchildren. I'm also a mother who have experienced the unimaginable, tragic death of my son from a fentanyl overdose on June 25th of 2021. The scariest thing I've heard since I've become an advocate for fentanyl awareness is not my kid. It's not my kid until it is your kid. I was looking at the Jackson County Public Health website. It has a health report for our city, Lee Summit. Here's the list of health risk behaviors. Binge drinking, 21%. Smoking, 13%. Physical inactivity, 18%. And sleeping less than 7 hours, 35%. There's something wrong with this report. Where's the drug? Why are we talking about drugs? It's killing our children. I want everyone in this room right now to picture their children, their grandchildren, their nieces, nephews. Think about them right now. Here's the terrifying fact. The new national demographic for overdose is 11 to 14 years old. Jackson County has had over a 700% increase in overdose deaths in the last 5 years. according to Dr. Lindsay Haldeman, the Jackson County Medical Examiner. In 2022, opioid overdose was the #1 killer in Jackson County. Here's a fact. 1 in 5 of those deaths were under 15 years old. These are our children. Oregon was the first state to legalize hard drugs. Back in 2021, they are recriminalizing them now because there's a 588% increase in overdose. They also did a survey on their students, 13 to 17 years old. Only 32% of those children were aware that there was counterfeit pills out there with fentanyl in them. The DEA released a report stating that 7 out of 10 of those counterfeit pills they've confiscated have lethal doses of fentanyl in them. They've also passed a law now that schools have to have a mandatory drug awareness curriculum. I'm begging you guys, for our children. We need to work on that. I have been checking out impact. Some of you guys have spoken to me about it. I know the police department have it, so kudos to the Lee Summit Police Department. But it's not enough. They're still dying. So it's not gonna matter if we prepare each student for success in life if they're dead. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Okay, that completes our meeting. Thank you, everyone.